Hey, everybody. Thank you guys for joining the Footy United Podcast. I'm your host, Charles. We're the community's only annual podcast. We do it once a year. Hopefully you appreciate that. I've got quite the group of individuals with me tonight, and I'm just going to work my way across the screen and introduce everybody. I've got Jose Aguirre from the Footy Podcast. Say hello, Jose.
Hi, guys.
I took you long enough.
Oh, I lost you there for a second. Oh, sorry.
I don't got much more to say then.
No, it's all good, man. And I've got, let's see who we got. We got KG from Operation Sports.
What's going on, guys? I know you can't see me, but once the noise decibel levels drop, I will make my way back indoors in the nice AC.
Very nice. I've got Chris Davies from Eva Web. What's up, Chris? Can we see that hat?
This hat? Oh, this old thing. I've had this for a little while now, and this just seems like the perfect time to get it out. So.
And we've got the host, Matt 10. Matt, how are
you,
my friend?
I'm doing well. How we doing, guys? I got my gin and tonic. Let's do this thing. Happy New Year.
We got a drinking game we're going to make out of this. And Brian Zane. Brian motherfucking Zane. From the Footy United Podcast. Brian, where'd you go?
Yo, hold on. I got to plug my Ethernet.
Oh, my goodness.
It's always something.
He's got a plug in his Ethernet, he said.
Oh, my God.
Sorry, when I was introducing you guys, I think I lost the audio, but I'm back now. So there was an awkward pause there.
We heard the entire thing.
Wait.
All right.
I'm back,
hold on.
baby. I got my Ethernet cord. Hold on.
All right. Well, while you're figuring that out, I want to introduce we have a game that's going on tonight. So everybody was instructed to bring a drink. And the drinking game is whenever somebody mistakenly refers to eFootball as PES, we all have to take a drink. I'm going to pour myself a drink here. All of us.
Then I better go get my bottle.
Yeah, it's going to be
a long night.
This isn't going to last.
Oh, did I miss intros? Oh,
cheers,
shit.
everybody.
Chris, this is for you, baby. This is for you, Chris.
I'm going to have to edit this all.
Oh, yeah.
Don't edit it. Let it go. Let it be what it is.
Brian is wearing a shirt. For the podcast listeners who can't see what Brian's wearing, he's wearing a shirt that says, "I love you, Chris. Please marry me."
Yes, that is exactly what this says. Thank you.
You can
Chris.
plug his Ethernet cord anytime.
It's pretty neat to see each other, I have to say.
I realized my Mac doesn't have an Ethernet jack. I ran downstairs.
Oh, my God.
God damn it.
Oh.
Oh, yeah. So wait, what are we doing? Every time we say PES, we drink?
Every time you say PES by mistake. Now, if you mean to say PES because you're referring to an old one, I think that's fine. But if you say PES when you should be saying eFootball, we all have to take a drink, not just you, everybody. So we all suffer. So.
Damn.
Anyway,
but
it's great to see everybody. I wanted to say something real quick. So we're going to try and cover the eFootball announcement and also the FIFA stuff that's been going on. And just real quick, I have to say, probably for the wrong reasons, admittedly, but I'm kind of really excited by all this stuff just because to see everybody together, there was so much activity in the footy gaming community. There's some podcasts out there and videos out there, people talking about reminiscing about all their great moments. Now I know it's because everybody thinks the series is dead, but that's the bad part. The good part is there's a lot to talk about, and it's neat to see everybody talking about it again. It just kind of makes me excited that there's a lot of love out there right now, and people it brings out the best in the community. I know it's for the wrong reason, but I really like seeing all the action that was going on Twitter today. So we're going to start with eFootball. Look, I did it right. And talk about what we saw, and there's some huge changes for this franchise that we know and love. And then we're going to talk a little bit about FIFA because there's some cool stuff going on there as well. So let me see. I've got some notes here. First of all, I think
is that a drum set behind you? What the hell is that?
You're
is that
always
a rock band drum
off
set?
topic.
I'm sorry. I just saw that.
I want to ask about that too. I'm like, oh, dude, you still have one of those. That's fucking cool.
It's a rock band.
All right, go ahead, Charles.
No, that was actually my first question, so fine. All right, so eFootball, it's been announced. Konami has out-Konami'd themselves, I would say. I think we should just go around. We'll start with you. Is everybody's order the same? Because Jose's on my right. Just work our way through and kind of think about what were you is this what you were expecting? I don't think there's any insider information here going on, so I think everybody was pretty surprised. But let's talk about expectations first. So let's rewind. Konami put out a messy trailer, a teaser. They told us they were taking a year off. They were moving to Unreal. All that seemed fine. Actually, I would say the community's response was pretty positive about that. But they did sneak in a title change, right? I'm not mistaken there. eFootball PES 2021. That was the full title, right? So
season update. Yeah.
Right, season update. But that eFootball got in there, right? So there's a lot here to think that this, because I saw a lot of stuff on Twitter, people talking about, do we think this was always their plan? Or do we think COVID, it was a COVID year. We saw a lot of changes in the industry and video games not having, being developed at home by developers. So did COVID make them switch tact and that we ended up with this? I'm just curious what you guys, like an overview kind of the announcement, if you saw it coming, and we're going to go into detail so you don't have to go off the deep end. But do you think in general, are you hopeful about this announcement? Do you think it's the right direction? Maybe it's a direction that had to happen, or is this not something you wanted to see? We'll start with Jose.
Well, the free-to-play part of this didn't really surprise me all that much. Just because there'd been talk about it just over the years. I know we'd talked about it in the past, and that wasn't all that surprising. What was surprising and extremely disappointed is that instead of giving us a next-gen game that can be played on mobile devices, they gave us a mobile game that can be played on next-gen devices.
I agree.
So we think.
Right. So we think. So we saw from what they've shown us.
Yeah, I think you're right. That's another topic too. We'll get to that, but that's a good point. If we think it's primarily if this is a next gen game that's going to be dumbed down and put it on all these platforms, or if it's really a mobile game that is kind of being brought up to be available everywhere, because that's a pretty important distinction, I think. And who knows?
All right, I want to go.
No. Yeah, all right, fine.
Oh no!
From now on, Brian goes first, because you're just gonna interrupt everybody unless we let you go first.
No.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I want to go last. I want to hear Matt's thoughts. Go ahead, Matt.
So thanks for that, B.
Put him on the spot.
I was just thinking, like, me and Chris here are being very proper, muting ourselves, while you guys are just openly talking and B's just interrupting. Yeah, that's cool. For me, it was really just like, it's all kind of a blur. Whatever, man. No, it was just a bit of a blur overall for me. It's just like, I feel like eFootball 2021 season update, whatever the heck that was called even, but I felt like they had good base gameplay. And I felt like, okay, because every single year you're like, okay, just a little bit more, fix this little thing. And that's kind of like what you expect, right? So like 2022, okay, maybe a little revamped of Unreal, but still the base gameplay from 2021 was well received. Work off of that, right? That's what I was hoping, And then they just dropped that announcement, dropped the extra stuff, went full, free to play, Unreal Engine, mobile as the focus, is what it feels like. And then it just feels just dead from there. So like I had limited expectations to begin with, in probably lower expectations in a sense, but I'm really enjoying 2021. And I didn't think there was that much that really needed to be done. So I was really excited for the graphical point of view, like the Unreal Engine. I was really excited to see what they were going to do there. Because it's like, we're in good hands here. 2021's looking all right, And then just being dropped like that was just a killer. And I'm still kind of recovering from it. And I've come up with all other theories that I'll go into later. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at there.
Good stuff. KG, your thoughts?
Just messy from Konami. You know what I mean? Like, we've seen a lot of sloppy PR type of moves from Konami before, but this one by far, like, it takes the cake. Like, I told B this story yesterday when he calls me, because he's one of only like 3 or 4 people, including my mom and my wife, that actually call me on the phone.
So funny.
So true.
I was out of town, just on a family trip, and I didn't know what time the trailer was dropping. With European time. Sorry, Chris, but with European times and stuff like that, like, I'd get all confused. Like, I have no idea unless it's Saturday morning, Chelsea, Arsenal, all the Prem teams. then other than that, I'm way off base. But I literally roll over. It's like 7 a.m. I roll over. I look at my phone. I see the stuff just going off on my phone. I see Konami trending on Twitter. So I say, okay, cool. The trailer's dropped. I watch the trailer and I say, what the fuck? And my wife turns to me and she says, what's wrong? Is everything okay? And I'm like,
Brian's calling me again.
yeah.
What the
And
fuck?
I'm like, nothing. It's just video game stuff. But then I watched it later when I was a little bit more alert, thinking that maybe I had missed some stuff and maybe there were some things in there that I just didn't, like I said, didn't catch the first time. And no, everything that I was disappointed with when I saw it at 7 a.m. was still there at 10 a.m. and just sloppy, just unprepared, not realizing the community's expectations and not having a good read for what we as the fans, kind of wanted and anticipated. Matt talked about it a little bit before about the base being with 21 season update, and it was pretty good. Like I'm really enjoying playing 2021 on the PC. And I wouldn't mind another year of playing my Master League on it. That I would be okay with that if 2022 wasn't ready. But seeing the direction that they decided to go for the trailer and the press release it's just mind-boggling. We have these powerful next-gen systems, and I think pretty much I know Brian has one, I know Matt has one. I'm not sure, Jose. Chris, are you on PS5?
Charles got his today.
Mine came today.
Okay, yeah, so pretty much all of us are on the PS5. So right there, the expectations were kind of raised, like not only graphically, but also just with some of the different tech. EA kind of rolled out some cool things last year with the controller and kind of intuitive triggers and things like that. So, I was kind of excited just to see what Konami had in store. Matt talked about the Unreal Engine. I'd done a lot of research on the Unreal Engine for an article on OS, cheap shameless plug, but just seeing some of the capabilities that it has, and it's really kind of like PES in the sense that it's a community-based engine where you can take bits and pieces from different developers, incorporate them into your own ideas, and kind of just run with it. So it's it's like you had mentioned in the intro, Charles. This is a great time for the gaming community to kind of get together. And unfortunately, all the good momentum that Konami had built up until that point, they just completely destroyed it with a 6-minute trailer that it looked terrible. The graphics look like mobile games. The new logo is just a ripoff of the Euro logo. It's just a very, very poor choice of marketing the game. Now, some of the decisions behind the game I actually like, and I know we'll dive into it deeply, but just my first impressions of it were just, it was just, I knew it was going to be a nightmare on Twitter. And as me and B were kind of going back and forth on Twitter today, it's been just the gift that just keeps giving in terms of just crazy gifts and just negativity and things like that. So, we'll see. There's a lot of time before now and release. Maybe they'll clean it up a little bit. They were in kind of spin control today, and they released a bunch of information today through Adam, through their official Twitter that we might get into later. But yeah, just disappointed.
Yeah,
father look right now.
You were so mad your family kicked you out of the house.
Chris, I want to hear your thoughts from
Mr.
across
Chris
the
Davies.
pond. Hey, Chris, what are you guys going to be like eWeb, eFootball web? Like, what are you calling the spot now?
We've had a few suggestions of renaming it to just EWWeb or EelWeb, because that's where we are right now. You mentioned the PS5 then, KG. There are people who spent a lot of money purely because they only play football games, or the thing they're looking forward to most is a new eFootball. I nearly slipped into the drinking game.
I'm gonna do it anyway. I'm gonna drink anyway. You fucked up. You thought about fucking up.
Yeah, me too. You thought about fucking up. There you
go. We caught you.
I'm in control. I mean, bear in mind it's 2:30 a.m. here, so it's going to happen. But people have bought it to with this in mind, think of what this tech can do. I mean, I thought the PS1 days, I was thinking, imagine what the PS2 is capable of, then imagine what the PS3 is capable of. And now we have the tech that, we've moved on so much since then. And yet every release since, the likes of PES 5 and PES 6 hasn't felt like a huge leap in most ways, especially when it comes to the AI. And yeah, there are a lot of people who are feeling cheated right now, because you've got to bear in mind when the season update was released last year, the statement that they gave at the time said, and I quote, "We recognize that many of you are enthusiastic for new My Club and Master League content.
Right.
And we are also excited to share that large updates are in the work for both of these modes." Now, they've said that eFootball will have DLC today and that Master League is part of that. But it seems like the dev team's been gutted almost, shrunk down to a team that's dealing with a free-to-play game that is a mobile game at its core. And even if you're releasing that on next-gen consoles, you can make it look nice, but the core of the game is going to have to run across everything. And if it's completely cross-play compatible, then I don't see them going, we'll make the next-gen version great for people who are just on that console, when the whole kind of core of what they're doing seems to be to make it easier to manage. And this isn't the first franchise that Konami have done this with. It feels like they don't want to make AAA games anymore. And this is, not the first time this has happened. PES
Silent
is just
Hill and Metal Gear, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So this is just the latest part of that grand strategy. And Konami are a business at the end of the day. Look, I've been through all 5 stages of grief with this thing. And honestly,
get your drink in your hand.
Denial.
That's the 6th stage, Matt.
Denial. This beta can't be a demo of the game. This must just be the online test, and it's a really early stage. And then anger. I mean, so much anger. They've taken the corpse of PES. They've put it in a unicorn suit. And they're pushing it out there to the Fortnite.
There it is.
Oh, there it was. Well, he was talking about PES in the past tense, so
but we said
I drank anyways. I drank anyways.
You guys are being too careful, so we got to get there.
Chris, go ahead.
This is good. I like this.
It's as I said, they've taken the corpse of PES, put it in a unicorn suit, and gone, this is for all the kids who are a bit bored of Fortnite. Messi from the Pepsi Max adverts. There you go. Go and play this for a bit instead. Bargaining, let's start a petition. Let's get some kind of Kickstarter going. We've got to have some way to fight this. Until you look at the business model and you look at 400 million downloads of PES Mobile since it launched versus about 3,000 active users a month on EvoWeb, and any other kind of enthusiast boards are going to have, I would imagine, similarly low numbers in comparison to 400 million. So then you get to depression. What am I going to do now? There's going to be no games made for me. There's the beauty, PES was the game of the beautiful game, and you felt like the people who were putting that together loved it, cared about it, were passionate about it, and you found something in that game that you couldn't find in anything else. The grinding with those awful starter players, everybody loves, your Castolo and all those guys. I hate them; they're terrible, but I love the journey that you go on with them, and we all did. And that's gone now. That won't ever come back. It's just, if this player isn't scoring when I press shoot, I'm unhappy and I don't want this anymore. So the kind of games that we played are gone, and that's why I'm at acceptance now. It is how it is. What we wanted when we were kids, and what I was going to say put up with, as in when the players weren't responding to your every button press, we did that. And we could grind through it, and it was a feeling of satisfaction at the end of it. But now it just feels like a bug to anyone kind of young playing PES 5 and 6. They'll just be thinking,
what's wrong with
why are these players so bad? So yeah, I feel like I'm just at the acceptance stage with it now. And there's a lot of disappointed people. As you said, it brought the whole community together. We saw more people come, onto EvoWeb to say RIP PES, over the last few days than we've seen in a while, just to share their memories of it. It's meant a lot to a lot of people, and it's sad to see it go, but it was coming.
Yeah. One of my favorite things today I saw was Suff and those guys. They have I think it's a podcast that's all PS5 related. It's like, I think it's called Latest PS5, and they have a PES section. And I watched it. It was really good. If you guys haven't watched it, I definitely recommend watching it. But I even got a little emotional when they started talking about PES moments. They don't call it PES moments. Something very similar, PES memories. And it was like, yeah, because I know we've been talking. We started out our podcast based on that, on those PES moments. But to hear another group of guys talk about it again too reminded me how special those games were, and how so many people have been brought together. I know all of you guys and other people only because of this game, and I have a lot of good. So
Yeah.
that is really cool, and I'm kind of optimistic about this. I mean, it's Konami, and it is what it is, but like I love seeing that it's still so passionate to so many people, and it kind of goes beyond nostalgia. Those games are fantastic. You can go play them. And yeah, they're old, and we all want them to be brought into next gen. We want those next gen experiences, but the core, those games are. It's not our imaginations. It's not just nostalgia. They were special. There was footy culture there. Konami got it. The fans got it. It was a special time. So yeah, man, I'm with you. And I thought today was really cool for the wrong reasons, like I said. But I love seeing everybody come together. Let me ask you this: like Brian called me. I guess was it today, Brian, that we talked, or was it yesterday?
It was yesterday.
Yesterday. Days are blending together. And he asked me a really interesting question, and almost asked each other at the same time. Does anybody else feel like this is almost a bit of closure? Because our podcast has been dying because we don't have anything to talk about, and we aren't really playing the game like KG and you and Matt. I know you guys like the game, and I think that's awesome. The guys who are normally on this, Brian plays it, but like most of us we don't play it as much as we wish we were playing our footy game. It doesn't I don't get my footy fix from it. I know Jose doesn't, but like so for us and for me, I said yes. It was like we've been watching the series get less and less meaningful to us, and we had this hunch that. Looking at what Konami was, what the writing's been kind of on the wall. We know Konami was getting away, like KG said, from big, forget the term, big games, big blockbuster games experiences. They changed the name last year. They did PES Mobile, which was really successful. So the writing's kind of been on the wall. Yeah. And Brian said, "Do you think this is closure?" And it kind of is for me. It's like I'm just really not who their demographic is, and I'm okay with that. There's no more. There's no more like maybe it'll be the game this year. It's like no, they're there. I'm in the rearview mirror, and I have been for years. But this is like they're finally out of view.
Now they've told you.
They've told me. They've told me you are not what we were trying.
Yeah.
Well, they kind of did. I guess that's the other thing.
They fucking did. They fucking did.
I know.
Well, you know what?
Quit holding on. Let go.
You're right. No, you're right. I see all these people out there. I think that's what we should talk about too. All the people out there, we always find like, oh, it goes back to the demo they released, the new football game. It's like, oh, it doesn't have a title. Oh, there's a magical build somewhere that is going to be better. Oh, they are making a next gen game. It is Unreal Engine. It's like, you know what? I'm not saying you guys are lying, or anybody that thinks that is lying to themselves, but with Konami and with most companies, like what they actually do tells you everything.
Yep.
And what they're doing and what we've seen is that new football game demo, even if the next demo comes out for PS5 and it's different or great, I think that's pretty much the game. And there's a lot of, you start looking at the specifics, there's a lot of proof in there, like the simplified controls.
Yep.
That speaks to a game that's developed primarily for mobile and then brought up, as opposed to what we mentioned before, if it really was this Unreal Engine 5, which is, we know it's not Unreal Engine 5. We know it's a custom version of Unreal Engine 4, which people have been doing for years. Developers have been using Unreal 4 and making their own versions of that engine for their games for a long time. So it always feels like Konami's kind of behind it. Like I feel bad for everybody who thought it's going to be Unreal Engine 5 and that Messi walking out onto the field was what they were going to get.
Yeah, I was hoping it would be like the cucutscenes like they used to be, the intros. Sure. Like I thought we were getting to that level. And
that would have been great, and I think that's doable now. But I mean, ultimately, how many developers right now have access to Unreal 5, and for how long have they had access to it? And why would we have thought that they were going to be making a game on Unreal 5 when, plain and simple, there just wouldn't have been enough time, considering their messaging, the 3-year cycle, and at the very least the past 2 years, we could say, or at the very least 1 year. But that means they would have started a brand new engine a year ago, and now be releasing it like
during the midst of a global pandemic. Where Charles touched upon it before. You had studios split game development between being in home and then actually being in the studio. And not to cut you off, Jose, but EA had one of their reveals, and I know we'll get into FIFA later, but one of their senior gameplay developers talked about that and the impacts of COVID and how it affected their ability to roll out those new motion capture suits. And he said this video was taken like a couple months ago, and this was the first time that we were able to actually visit a club and do 11v11 with our new motion capture technology and recording software. And it just, things like that, like Jose, you were saying, I can understand delays. I can understand, challenges due to, like you said, moving to a new engine during the worst time probably ever, and things like that. But it's like I said, it's still a little bit just disappointing.
Yeah.
The way how everything's rolled out, and Charles and I talked about this on Twitter a little bit earlier. Just we're not the target demographic anymore. I call us dinosaurs. We're an old group that likes to sit in front of the TV and play versus the computer and get lost in our own little worlds where we're developing our own players. We're making fictional deals in the transfer market. Brian's buying up every 21-year-old with 95 potential out there. That's who we are. But I also think that there's more of us out there than what a lot of people think.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, because gaming companies and sales numbers and play hours are so proprietary and they keep those so in-house, like every once in a while you might hear some peeps from an EA shareholder meeting, but it would be nice to see like a breakdown of, all right, this is the reason why we dump all the money into Foot or into my club, because 75% of the play hours are in that mode. All right, just tell me. I can live with that. I can live with facts.
I didn't realize that they had 400 million downloads of PES Mobile.
Dude,
I did not know that.
80% is my club.
And that's the thing.
What I heard.
Think about, like, we talk about how we are this old group, and we love the game that we kind of grew up with, and we want to continue playing it in that manner, right? But if you look at the community today, and you just pay attention to what most of the people that we kind of grew up talking to on the forums or whatever, that are doing any type of content creation or any type of sharing on social media, the majority of them are sharing their My Club stuff. They're talking about the player that they just unpacked. They're talking about, like, everybody is playing My Club. We can say it's the same thing as what Konami does, right? They come out and they promise us a bunch of stuff, and then they do something different. We can say we want single player all we want, but we're not playing it, right? So
real quick, one thing, just one thing. I agree with you, and I always wonder though, if we get the game they give us, and if all the development goes into that area, and that's the best area to play for, and the easiest, most accessible place, like career mode and Master League mode's not been great. No. You know what I mean? So it's like, oh, you guys don't like it. It's like, well,
it sucks.
Not your strongest mode. Playing. That's why nobody's playing it. So I don't know. I always like to throw that out there. I don't know if it's true, but I think that's part of it.
Yeah,
I would like to know if there was a great Master League, if there was a great career mode, would it still get so thrown under the bus? But at this point, it's shifted already. That shift has happened.
You might have gone too far.
Well, that's the scare with the idea for me, in the sense of Master League having to pay for it when that time comes, because on one hand I see a good thing, because now I can hold them accountable, because if I'm going to pay what price point, $20 extra or something, what's going to be the output? How much effort are they going to put into it? But let's say they come out with a price point of $5. What am I getting? Am I getting the PES? Dang it! Am I getting am I getting 2021s, or am I getting that Master League? Which one am I getting, right? Yeah. So that's my kind of hesitation, but also kind of embracing it, because I've said it in the past where I said we have to find something that's where we can hold them more accountable, and if it needs to be broken down and split apart to that level, then maybe this is our opportunity for us old fogies, to be like, hey, you know what? I'm paying now for this. It's not the complete package anymore. I'm now a consumer, not just of your eFootball, but eFootball plus Master League DLC. I just paid for that. Let me get my bang for my buck now, and I'm going to hold you accountable to it.
That's a great way to look at it, Matt.
Mm-hmm. I've been thinking about that way for a while there, and B, I think I've told you about that, in our many phone calls. But it's like
FIFA, Foot, and Foot should be a separate game. And if they did that, You had Foot as a separate game, and then you had, because they could make the career mode everybody wants. Like they have the ability to do it. They don't, because they have to appease to the Foot crowd, which is why you have the midfield being shit in terms of tracking back and everything.
No, 100%. Because look at all the avenues that you can now, in a sense, separate. Like we want, like for FIFA, we want separate offline gameplay than we do want online, right? We don't want an online game. Chris, you know all about that. We've talked about that at length. You know, can you imagine if we then had to now just pay for just the offline aspect?
Yeah,
I raised my hand for it. I'm in for it. You know.
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad idea.
I would love. Sorry, Jose. I would love online career mode. Like I would pay. I would pay.
I would pay
full price.
I would pay full price exactly for online
PS5 price. PS5.
Yeah. No, let's not get crazy. But I would pay to take, like you're saying, Brian saying, build the master league with the career mode that we want, and then put it online. Like we've seen the kind of hints from EA, like they advertised some job positions that were looking for online career engineers and things like that, and so I gotta believe that the ask is out there. So just like Matt, what like you were kind of saying with the kind of a la carte pricing model that they're doing, which is something that a lot of people have wanted for our traditional cable system over here, Chris, where like if I only watch these 10 channels, I only want to pay for these 10 channels. So like I actually like that business model, but like I just want to be able to play, because the AI, like I'm sure we'll talk about, is not very good. Like even in both games, I would love to be able to play and be invested against my friends, guys that I communicate with on Twitter, guys on different forums, blogs, whatever. But just having that added element would make it so much better, and I think that would pull a lot of people towards career mode.
Yeah.
I think one of the core issues, though, is that if they do split, say that EA were considering splitting development teams so that they had a pure career mode that was more focused on sim aspects and things, how much more money would they make compared to the investment to have two separate dev teams to make two strands of gameplay that then never meet again? The fact is, we'll buy, well, I know I will, I'll buy FIFA no matter what, because especially now that eFootball has arrived and PES has died. So I'm going to buy it. So why would they invest into doing anything else or trying to cater for us? Because they can keep the model that they've got now, not have to pay for two separate dev teams, not have to pay for all the production values, and still sell as many copies. And that's, we are where we are. There was a great quote on EvoWeb today from a guy who said, when we cling on to what used to be the truth, we become liars. And that for me is my truth back in the day was PES was great. Everyone should want to play something like this. Now, today, it's not what people want. Again, going back to the 400 million downloads of PES Mobile, all of the comments that you see. I mean, if you go on Facebook, Twitter, the PES or eFootball pages, all of the comments underneath, it's all, what about new faces? What about new boots? Thanks, I got Messi today. Thanks, Konami.
Yeah.
There's no one saying, how about some more realistic shot physics or some more variety in that? That doesn't exist right now. Yeah, exactly.
But the guys that would say that aren't really on those like we're but other than us idiots to get around the podcast, we're usually not in the limelight. Usually, right? It's like, do you guys leave a lot of YouTube comments? I don't.
No, and right? I don't think our generation screams louder.
No, we're not loud enough. We're not.
Yeah. Like we're
Brian's loud enough.
Yeah, he's definitely loud enough for all of us. But yeah, we're not the type voice. Yeah, we're not the type to go on, and spam them like Chris was saying, because Chris is absolutely right.
Yeah, he is.
Like it's about faces, it's about boots, it's about pulling, guys in for your my club and your Foot. And don't get me wrong, like I personally think Foot is a incredible idea. Like from just a business standpoint, it brings in, and I definitely believe that it's a
competitive standpoint too.
Yeah. So it combines the competitiveness of just video game. Am I a better video game player than you? It combines a little bit of gambling with the stock market. And that right there, like that's as American as you can get. Like competition gambling and kind of shady stuff on the side in the stock market. Like
trying to get one over the neighbor.
Yeah. Like I would drink to the USA. But it's a fantastic idea. And like I said, I know it's not for us, but I would get behind the concept. I just don't like what that brings out of people. And what that does is it turns me away from like the winning at all costs. Like Brian and I will play, Matt and I will play. We play pro clubs on FIFA. We lose all the time to each other. We lose all the time in pro clubs. We shake it off. It's about just having fun with your buddies, playing a game that you find or something that you find is fun, and not having to deal with like, you know, all the excess stuff that gets brought into it when money starts being involved and all those kind of things.
Absolutely.
So,
dude, it's a different world. It's stuff that doesn't even occur to me. This is kind of funny. It's kind of off topic, but I'm really starting to feel like an old man. Like I don't pay attention to what's viral on YouTube or any of that shit. Well, I guess Corinna Kopf has become so viral, you know, for making millions with her boobs and stuff on OnlyFans, that it found its way on my YouTube. And so I watched an interview with her and Logan Paul. And I was like, oh my God, Logan Paul. Last time I saw Logan Paul, I remember that guy. He went to Japan and did that horrible video in the woods. And like, I forgot all about him after that. But obviously, you know, just a huge interview. Anyway, he was interviewing, I watched like 2 videos because like just the culture that was put on display and the lack of, I don't know, almost like respect for themselves or anybody. I was kind of appalled just watching this. And I know their audiences are primarily younger people. So all that stupid old man talk aside, I watched a video where he interviewed a YouTuber who was making a living off of like Call of Duty or something, and he was really pissed at the developers. But his perspective was so interesting. He was like, EA, get your shit together. People are making a living on this platform. It's like, wow.
That's all that.
Like that's a game, and games are always games to me, even though I want them to be a simulation.
Yeah, it's
people are
now.
Making a living at FIFA.
It is different now,
right?
Yeah.
So like,
now.
So yeah, like, but I don't think that's EA's responsibility. But maybe I'm wrong.
Not at all. Not at all.
Yeah.
He thinks it is. Like these are platforms to him, and he can. It's just a really different perspective from,
it is,
you know, any of ours.
Yeah,
mine anyway.
I get that perspective a little bit more because of the competitive fighting games that I've been doing, and a lot of people they make their living off of this stuff. Then the game changes, and suddenly you have to basically relearn the game because your character sucks now, and you went from making a decent living to not making any money. So it's I get it. I get that perspective of saying like, hey, FIFA is a competitive game that I literally play for views or for competition earnings or for, you know, anything of that sort, and having issues on that front. Now you're talking about somebody's potential livelihood. It changes things completely. But I think that the games are there just by kind of chance. I don't think they were necessarily made for people to make a living from. It's just an opportunity to do it. And why wouldn't people want to do that, right? Like, who doesn't want to play video games for a living?
The audience is there. It's like why
sure.
EA is doing what they're doing, and the audience is there. And
that's why you have like such just much more success on like Twitch, for example. You know, people streaming all day, Let's Plays all day long. You know, they can go 14 hours. You know, and then you know it's just the way. And I think when we were playing, or when we were in the kind of the prime of, you know, PES 5 and all those like classically, we weren't thinking about making money. Of course, we probably weren't of age, but if you think about it, even now, you know, it's like you can't go back to PES 5 and then try to make some money other than like YouTube and stream and get a following, you know. But guys are doing it differently now because it's like the Foot, My Club, all these things that are hitting, and they never get old. It's like evergreen.
It's not even like them playing the game and do cool stuff.
Right.
A lot of it is just degrading your opponent, and people love hearing the guy like disrespect the opponent.
Their personality kind of is
their
what's
personality
on
is
display.
exactly. But I want to go back real quick. I didn't get a chance.
Is that why you got your hand raised?
That's right.
I keep
that's
lowering
why I had my
it.
hand raised up in this.
You didn't have.
I'm not even looking at that side of the screen.
You didn't
you know
have.
what I'm saying?
You guys hear something?
Like it was a work Zoom meeting. Raised his hand. I have a question. Yes.
What was your reaction, Brian?
No, you know what?
Let's hear it.
You know, it's kind of like you have a loved one who's really sick, right? And in the back of your mind, you're thinking, oh man, if like you just hope they wake up one day and they pull through, but then they pass away, and you go, you know what? Like, I'm sad, but this person's at peace. They're at peace. That's how I feel with PES, man. It's like I'm at peace. PES died. You know what I'm saying? PES is dead. I was sad for a little bit. Now I'm at peace, and that's how I feel. That's why we were talking, Charles, about closure. Like, it almost feels like closure, like because I no longer have to think about. Yeah, I no longer have to think about like, what if? Oh man, the Unreal Engine. They have this great engine. What if they just strike gold or whatever? And I don't have to worry about that now. So it's kind of like it's over. Yeah. I'm at peace. But for me, in terms of, I saw some people on Twitter talking about, give it, I think, we'll go through some of the comments that people made. But I think Z, who's a nice guy on Twitter, Z Meister, I think he's on EvoWed too, I think. He mentioned something like, give him a chance and so forth. I don't know why people are so angry or something of that nature. I could be wrong. But, I completely get the business model of it. Completely understand the Fortnite, Call of Duty, Warzone. The money is there, especially when you talk about the 400 million downloads. I had mentioned to one of you guys, I must have downloaded and deleted Candy Crush like 10 times. You know what I mean? So like, you have all these downloads, and like, I wonder like if ads are going to come into play as well with these mobile games, and they're going to make money off of advertising, not just, downloaded paid for content. So there's just so much money to be made. So from a business standpoint, I completely get that. That's not what's kind of disappointing. Like a parent, like, listen, I'm not angry. I'm just disappointed. You know what that's basically, what it is with Konami. It's like, I'm not angry. I'm disappointed because over the past couple of years, you led us to believe that we were getting something else than what we got yesterday. And that's I think what's most upsetting to fans. You look at the Unreal Engine,
it hurt.
And they put that messy teaser out where it looked beautiful, and then you look at these graphics from basically a mobile game, and you're just like, as KG said, I saw it and I'm like, what the fuck? And I just started laughing. I must have laughed out loud for like 30 seconds.
He threw out the Blink-182 meme. I know.
Yeah, it was literally, that's perfect. I was just like, I had to rewatch it because I was like, no, this can't be real. It was literally like a this can't be real moment, like watching this go
unreal.
Through, and I'm like,
it's I was just gonna say
it's unreal 4 times.
It's unreal.
It's Konami's version
like
of Unreal.
Yeah,
that's the question I have for there. Maybe you can answer this, because like I was thinking, is like, would we be as upset or disappointed parent if they didn't tell us anything beforehand? Like, no hype, like nothing, no communication about like, oh, look at this is gonna be amazing, like, yes. Do you think we would be reacting this exact same way?
I do.
Yeah,
I feel like
think so.
Konami should always, like, knowing the past mistakes they've made with their PR stuff, I feel like they should always set the expectations super low.
Super low. Mm-hmm.
Like, if you want to get some cheap wins, set it very low. You know what I mean? Like, throw out,
under promise, over deliver.
Yeah, exactly. Throw out some stuff, and all of a sudden, like, the last minute, say you got all these partner clubs and all these new additions. And
KG, they released a trailer with modes that had no names.
I know.
Like, names to be determined.
They also released a beta. They also released a quote unquote beta. That let's just say it. I don't know if it's a beta, but let's just say it was a mobile. It was a test, but it's still
the game
the same.
Was announced.
Right, it's still the same thing.
Oh wait, this isn't what we're announcing. I told Brian, I said, this is literally the biggest.
Charles was so pissed.
Did I interrupt KG? I missed it.
No. Go ahead, man.
That's hilarious. Though.
Like, that was, like, even when I watch it now, I don't react as strongly to it. Like, dude, it's almost like I just laugh to myself, like, what
exactly,
the fuck? I can't believe, like, they didn't pull it. You know what I mean? Like pull it off the shelf, like delete it from Twitter. Like everyone knows that it's.
And then they have. It's like,
never happened.
You have
just be like a politician and lie about it and be like, no, it never happened.
This was an
accident.
It was.
True. That's such a good way of putting it.
The guy voicing it, like it was like I was watching one of them Nat Geo
that was
channels.
Fucking
like
weird. It was a
Animal
strange
Planet.
way to start.
You are powerful.
The slow motion of the tiger chasing the zebra, and that was like the guy's voice, and I'm like, what? I'm like, who's narrating this?
That was
leave my Disney Plus on.
Yeah,
It's unbelievable.
I said this earlier, and I'm with you guys. Like, I understand the business model. It all makes perfect sense to me. In fact, one of my questions, actually, that I think we touched upon, you pretty much answered: is this the right move? And maybe we can answer that next. Like, is this the right thing for the series? But before
Company
that,
standpoint, business standpoint.
yeah. I mean, really.
Yeah.
I mean, here's
from a monetary standpoint. Yeah.
But there's a couple things, but it's also like we did kind of touch upon it, but we were asking, we like to ask the idea of what if these companies release 2 games, release the foot game, then give us a simulation. And you guys already touched upon that. We don't have to go back to that particular point. But is this the most realistic implementation of that idea, where Konami's kind of like, I don't know if it was Adam or somebody else who started that concept of like because it wasn't in the trailer. They didn't say pay for what you want to play, but it kind of came out through Twitter dialogue and some messaging there, Twitter dialogue, excuse me. But if that's true, I mean, we don't even know what modes are going to be released. And I'm very skeptical. I've been skeptical of Konami. Like, this makes perfect sense to me. I think the writing was on the wall. eFootball last year, taking a year off, which I'm sorry, but even without COVID, we've heard 3-year development cycles in the past where they said they've got a team who's actually in their fruits of their labor not going to be seen for 3 years. So like, okay, that team was taking time off while the other team, like, we've heard all this stuff so many times. And then this eFootball demo comes out of nowhere, and it was like right away, I'm like, yeah, that's the game. Because that's what Konami does. What they actually do is what you have to understand is the truth, not constantly be thinking, oh, no, this is what's going to, no, what are they doing? That's what's happening.
Yeah.
It's right in front of you. True. Is it raining outside? Is it? Yes, it's raining. It's sunny somewhere else, but it's fucking raining here. Konami's releasing a mobile game, right? So like, but I will ask, do we think this is, given the state of PES, given what Konami has been doing with their other franchises, their other titles, 2 questions here. Is it the right thing to do ultimately? And number 2, the scary thing I kind of think of is, if it doesn't work out, which I think we all think it will actually because of their mobile success, if it doesn't work out and Konami at the reins, like, I know a lot of people are like, let's make this fail and then they'll have to get back to the old model, bring PES back or something. But I would actually put this forward. This is a last-ditch effort already for Konami to get money out of this series. If this doesn't work, I think it's much more likely Konami's like, boom, no more soccer game from us. We'll go put our money somewhere elsewhere. I think that's much more likely. I'm not saying we should go buy this game to keep it successful. Don't buy it if you don't want to play it. That's not what I'm saying at all. But I think the reality is, this is I think PES, and I mean PES, not eFootball, Konami's soccer game, football game, I think was almost gone. And I could be way off there, but I think this is just about making money. How can we turn this into a moneymaker? And if they have no interest in making whoever, I'm sure some of the developers do, but the higher ups of Konami, I think it's about making money in this franchise, taking it in this direction because it's how to make the most money, and whatever. So do you think this is the right thing for the future? And if it's not successful, do you think they could kill the franchise?
I think they did already.
Well, they could kill eFootball before it even gets a start, I guess.
I think they killed the franchise that they've had for 20 years. They did that today. They did it for all of us. And it's funny because we talk about messaging and we talk about what Konami says versus what they do. And I've been one to sit with people that promise a lot of stuff. And you get excited and you come on a podcast and then you talk about these things that sound really exciting, and it at the end of the day, the only thing that really was going on is you're being used for positive publicity, and that never stopped. Like there was always some version of that over the last, I don't know, 10 at the least 10 years. In some way or another, we were all being fed what we kind of wanted to hear, and in the end, us as fans, we kind of supported Konami, PES because we were fans of it, because we used to love it, and we didn't want it to go away, right? So we supported it as if it was the football team that we love, and we had this blind fanaticism towards it. So we kept buying a game that we thought was shit. We kept on believing the shit that they fed us. We kept on, and we tried to enjoy the game, which means any new mode that came out, we tried it out. We put some money into my club. We did the whole trying to make the most out of the thing that we loved, that we were holding on to. And in the end, all we really did was, we are powerful. We are fucking
You've been
powerful.
on that today. You like that line.
Yeah, because at first I was like, dude, this is such a bullshit line. Trying like this, almost like subliminal messaging, right?
I think it's a
I
mistranslation.
am powerful, right? But maybe, but I don't anymore, because I was thinking about it and I was just like, what the fuck? They say that a lot to you. And I thought, we did this as a community, not us sitting here, but in general as a community. We showed Konami what we play. We showed Konami where we spend money, and where our value truly lies with our wallets. We can say we want this all day, every day, and then go and pay for what they give us. That just doesn't compute, doesn't add up. And right, the only thing that Konami can prove is what we pay for, and that to us, that's on us. We have to accept that. That's the community has to accept that. So moving forward, Konami gave us the power to decide what happens with eFootball. We will decide what happens with it. It's going to be up to us as fans, and we will also decide what happens with the soccer gaming genre in general. Because if this is successful, what do you think EA is going to do?
Oh, I think Konami was I think this was an opportunity for them to think of, hey, how do we get in front of EA? Because you don't think EA is looking at Warzone, Fortnite, and going, man, we make a killing off foot, but we can make so much more. You don't think they're looking at that? And so I think Konami was like, EA is going to go this route. Let's get ahead of them and see how many more people we can get playing our game. We talk about the 400 million mobile downloads. So, it wouldn't shock me if next year, I would not be shocked at all if FIFA went free to play. I would not be shocked at all. But I also don't think EA, I absolutely don't think EA looks at Konami as a competitor either.
Yeah, I don't either.
I don't think they could give a shit about what Konami does.
To be devil's advocate, so if this is Konami's way to try to attract folks from EA by sucking them in with a $0 price point, right? Come play our game. It's free to play. You can play it. You can play a PlayStation 5 against a PC. Mobile. You know what I mean? You could play it against any console, Google Stadia probably at some point, any kind of platform you're going to be able to play someone else in. So in a game like Foot, that's probably like EA probably has the money, the technical architecture to like pull something like that off better than Konami, which kind of shocked me about Konami's announcement about crossplay. Like that's a huge accomplishment if you can get it right.
Claim.
Yeah, if you can get it right. And the folks that we play that still play PES online, like Matt can even tell you, the online experience in PES is horrible. So what's it going to be when, like, I can't get a good smooth connection with Brian and he lives like 200 miles north of me. You know what I mean? We're both on fiber networks and good connection.
Yeah, I plugged in that Ethernet cord.
That Ethernet cord.
I plugged that in right down my steps, bro.
He lays it down. Oh man, rolls it up on his arm. But so my point is, once you attract some of these EA people or just casual fans who haven't played a football game or a footy game in a long time, you got to wow them when you get them, or else they're gonna leave. Like Brian mentioned before, you've downloaded and re-downloaded and deleted Candy Crush about 10 times.
But all 10 times, I'm still getting served ads. So I'm just saying.
Yeah.
So
they're still getting paid.
It doesn't matter if you're. They're still getting paid. It doesn't matter if you're a new user, a unique user, or a reuser.
So that number, that 400 million, like, I don't know if that's unique downloads, if that's just like one
probably
person downloading it, like Brian said. Like 10's probably to the extreme. Like I would never be that patient with a game if I download it once.
I was being facetious.
I know.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah.
But so if you get all those people in and say it is like 200 million like unique users, when they get here to your side, to your product, PES, I'll drink to that real quick. When they get to eFootball, they have to be offered something that frankly FIFA doesn't have. The gameplay is
they do. They got modes that are to be determined.
Right? So
FIFA definitely don't have
everyone who plays Foot in my club always says that Foot is a far better product. Right? They might not like it because of like people selling coin or all that stuff, all the shady stuff and the competitiveness of it. But at its core, like that's what my club is trying to be. So for those people that are going to come over, that are going to be 50, 60, 65% of your, like, what's going to be like your compromise your play hours, like they've got to get here, stay here, and be happy with what you have to the point where like they keep coming back.
Mm-hmm.
And
but
right
here's
now,
the thing. Here's
PES
the thing,
isn't good enough.
KG, they download it once. They download it once and then they get rid of it. But you know what? It still counts as a download. So Konami now can go to all their advertisers. I work in marketing and advertising. I know exactly how this works. It doesn't matter if somebody downloaded it once, played 2 games, and said it sucks. It's a download. So they can go to advertisers and be like, well, our game's getting 300, 400 million downloads. We're hitting an 18 to 35 male demographic. You have a product that fits that. Let's advertise on there. Like I mean, that's marketing 101 right there. So they don't care. You download it. You play it once. It don't matter.
But then there's also the like KG. What about like, okay, so if you have a PlayStation 5 and you download this free to play game, you're gonna have a PlayStation 5 expectation. But if you download this game, where I think the majority of people are gonna download this game, which is on their fucking phones, you have a mobile game expectation.
I know.
When you consider PES, the current PES Mobile for a mobile game is pretty fucking good.
Yeah.
Right. Like, so if this new game is going to be better, Konami's new soccer game is going to be better.
Yeah.
Then it's going to be probably like the best performing mobile game out there. So what kind of expectation are you going to have when you download this mobile fucking soccer game? So comparing it to FIFA, are you going to compare it to FIFA? Or are you going to think of it as a mobile game?
So it's hard to answer that because I have no idea. So Konami today said that all of your games are going to be scaled to the best specs for your system, right? So if you've got a PS5, you're going to be able to get PS5 graphics. PC, you can spec it out, out of the wazoo, and all the things like that. So what I don't get, and EA has already come out and said that for both Madden and for FIFA, where certain things are only going to be playable on next gen consoles, right? Some consoles aren't powerful enough. Some of them, like the PC, you'd have to raise the spec limit so high you'd probably price out a lot of your core buyers. So to me, it all goes back to, can Konami, like, I don't think they can pull it off.
Well, that's why I said it's a mobile game scaled up. Because how else do you pull this? Like, that's
in my mind, that's
reality.
In my mind, that's definitely how I interpret it. Like, I called BS on that. Like, I called Konami's bluff. One of their producers did say that it is developed for next gen first and then scaled down from there. Like, I know you work in IT. I used to work in IT a little bit, Chris. I'm not sure about you. Matt's like the IT guru on here. Like, usually, like that doesn't seem like something that's that smart of an IT approach, is it? Or am I completely wrong?
It's what they're doing. Remember, we have to look at Konami as what they're doing. That's the truth, not what they say is going to happen. Yeah. So what kind of a demo did they release out of nowhere? I'm sorry, but I just think that tells you everything. What company, if they didn't have a game that looked awesome in Unreal and it blew your PS5 out of your fucking living room, they're not going to show it to you?
Whet your appetite. That's what they said. They said, we're going to whet your appetite a little bit. I was like,
but they didn't. They soured everybody's appetite. Everybody went, oh, that's why EvoWeb's going to be EvoWeb, right? It's like
EvoWeb.
Ooh, football.
Yeah.
I'd like to hear Chris's thoughts because he's been quiet for a while.
So quiet, Chris.
Just sitting there with his silly hat.
It's late at
This
night,
is the
Chris.
7th stage.
You stayed up for this. Floor's yours, baby.
7. Oh.
Floor's yours.
My eyes have been. I've been asleep for the last half an hour. What did I miss? No, it's look. For me, I think the idea behind this is if you're a kid on a PS5 and you're playing FIFA and you lose at foot, you go, I'm going to download that Pro Evo and give that a go. No, sorry, eFootball. That's the first one. But you're going to download, you're going to go, right, I lost on that, so I'm going to give that a go. If you download it and lose on that as well, you'll delete that. And then the next time that you lose on foot, you'll keep going back and you'll keep going back because it's free. It's an open door. It's a come back and try this. And the day that you win on it, or you win 2 in a row, maybe you'll spend $2 on a card pack or whatever it is. And if 200 million or however many people are doing that across all of their different devices, then you could shut it down after 6 months and you walk away like you've just robbed a bank. So I think that the business model is absolutely spot on, as much as I hate it, and as much as, the kids.
It's gambling.
That's what it is. And there aren't any laws to stop it yet. Hopefully there will be one day. But I mean, EA have already got that loophole, haven't they, where they've said, okay, so we'll show you what you're going to get in this pack before you press the purchase button. So it's not gambling. You can see what you're going to get, and it will stay locked in place like that for, I think is it 12 or 24 hours?
24 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So they've got that way around it, and everyone else will do the same thing. You can't stop this train that's in motion, this microtransactions train. It's full speed ahead. It's not going away. We can't stop it. I don't think any kind of law can stop it. So this is the future.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good way of putting it. I think it is definitely
Jesus
like
Christ.
gambling in that sense because it is like, if you think about it, like the kids, they know what they're getting, they know what they're going after. Did Brian fall asleep? Is he frozen for anybody else?
No, he
He's
just
frozen.
looks that way.
There we go.
The way God
Beat.
made him.
Oh,
He's
get that
just-
Ethernet cord into that mattress.
Well, I was saying, but Chris, like, because I know, Chris, you hate the idea of obviously kids gambling, never good, right? And the idea of course, seeing what you're going to get, but on top of that as well, you get instant reviews by those content creators, right? They're getting the visual review, and they see how cool it is. And then, like we talked about earlier, how you make money, you can make an income, doing this. Like a lot of followers, a lot of views come from just something that simple. A foot card. I don't know anything about foot, so I will butcher whatever the terminology is of, all the different cards and whatnot. But that's a great example as well.
I found it really interesting. The FIFA, I was going to say press conference, but whatever it was called, where they announced FIFA 22, at the end where they said to the community guy, how do you gather feedback? The first 3 kind of groups that he mentioned, he said, we will listen to our game changers, which is, as far as I know, it's a very online focused group. There's a lot of YouTubers in there as well. Our content creators, which is those YouTube guys. And again, the stuff that, as you just said, the stuff that generates the views, the clicks, is pack openings for some bizarre reason. And then the third group, influencers. And when he said influencers, I just wanted to explode, because if they're the guys that you're listening to,
Yeah,
I love Chris so much.
Whatever is happening with the amount of copies that you sell, the vast majority of people who buy it are, Joe Public. And a lot of those guys buy it because they watch football, they might play football, they want to get a football game. Now, I'm not saying that most people don't want to play online and play foot and things like that, because obviously they do. That's what's popular, and that's how they get their microtransaction money in. But for those guys to govern the development of a game ahead of everybody else, I mean, it doesn't make sense to me that changes are being made for esports reasons, for that kind of competitive play. Surely you want to make the game that's best for everybody, even if that means obviously we don't get what we want because it's not going to be very sim focused. But even taking that aside, for it to be so based on competitiveness, or competitive play, online competitive play between the best guys in the world and then your YouTube content creators and everything else, it seems like it's infuriating to me. But that's the path they take.
Yeah.
I always go ahead, Matt.
No, I was just saying agree. Yeah, go aheid.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I always say with with companies that own such a huge share of like a particular sport. So EA obviously owns FIFA, owns footy. Like 2K owns the NBA, EA owns Madden. When you have like everyone by the balls, like just make a game, like whatever game you make, they're gonna play. So if you make a game that's realistic, that you actually have to use tactics, or you know what I mean, like on some kind of basic level, right? Like you'll see it all the time in PES, but you don't see it in FIFA. In PES, the first thing that like you get what 130 seconds to choose your tactics. Brian uses every last second on there.
That's why I never play online.
Deep defensive line.
I can't.
Yeah.
I can.
So-
I can't sit there and wait for you to do that every game.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
on the contrary, in FIFA, everyone jumps like they might make a
Right in.
sub here or there, but they jump right into the game.
Yeah.
But I guarantee you, if FIFA with all of its glitz and all of its licenses,
I'll tell you why, though.
presentation packages, if they made a game, and every once in a while they will, like I want to say FIFA, and Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, like FIFA 16 out of the box was like a crazy simulation
Chris
type
knows.
of game. Like
Mhm.
when I was getting it, when I got it
That's a
early,
good
I
one.
was like,
Jose
it
told me to
sucks.
buy it. Remember that,
Yeah.
Jose? You're like, you'll
Yeah.
like this.
I was very scared that like I was playing a game that other people weren't going to be playing, and if I wrote something about it, that people would just kill me.
Yeah.
But it was, if they did it, and then people complained about it, like
Yeah.
like Chris was saying, the influencers, the social media content creators, and the game changers, who are sometimes the same person,
Yeah.
will
Exactly.
complain about it, and then EA will just do a complete shift, right? Konami does little shifts here and there with their data packs and gameplay and things like that, but EA will do a
Yeah.
complete pivot,
Course correct. Yeah.
90 degrees, 180 degrees, and just cater directly to the people who, like we said before, yell the loudest.
Yeah. The ones that
And-
spend the most money.
Yeah, and it's a shame because instead of them coming out and saying, look, watch Chris has a Wolves jersey on, right? Watch Nuno sit back and just, try to counter teams or hit long balls over the top to Jimenez when he was there. Watch them just kind of play a very structured system and, play football. But EA proved to me that they could do that. But then within like 2 months, they proved to me that they ultimately care about what these people are telling them.
Yeah. They're
And
not
that's-
allowed to do.
Yeah, and that's
Right.
how they go. Part of me understands that because that's your core audience. You're a company, you have to make money. But as a fan, it just sucks. Like I want to just play a good game that's
Yeah.
somewhat, that's realistic at its core, but it's it's still a video game. It's
video
still
game.
90 minutes packed
Still
into
fun.
20
Yeah.
minutes.
Mhm.
There's got to be some kind of balance, and EA just seems to just skew it towards the back heel, to the Rabona, to the rainbow flick, to the scorpion kick goal, and then I'm going to do
Everything
the
D-Man
wave with my
does,
green
yeah.
hair. Like that just to
Yeah,
me just
yeah,
seems like how they roll.
Yeah. It is. It's funny. It's
See
funny
him
you
play pro
mentioned,
clubs.
it's funny you
I know.
mentioned FIFA 16 because I think
Ooh.
that was my turning point.
Mm.
That's when I just said I can't.
Because it was good. And then they remember the winter
Yeah.
patch.
It was
like,
good. And
I got it.
They
You're like,
really,
Brian,
like KG
you're
said,
gonna
changed
love it. I had it for a couple weeks, and I'm like,
Yeah, and then they
I
changed
got
everything.
all the way up to what do they have in EA? Is it seasons or divisions?
Yeah, at that
Divisions is
time,
PES.
at that time,
Seasons, right?
it was. I think it was
For
also
online,
divisions
I think it
too.
was still
Yeah,
divisions.
for
It
online.
was
Is
also
it
divisions at the time.
So
think
I got up to Division
Yeah.
1, literally out footballing my opponent. It was
Yeah.
that game where you could literally. It was the closest thing to PES, like old school, like where you literally could just slow the game down, let people run at you, press. They wanted to double press you all over. They just play
Just
right
pass
around
the
them.
ball around them.
Yeah, exactly. And it was great, and it lasted about a month. And I remember Jose, you texted me, and you're like, dude, they changed the game. And I logged on, and I'm like, what the? I made it all the way up to Division 1, and I
Yeah,
couldn't
dude,
do it anymore.
it was that was
They
the
ruined it.
most that to me was more heartbreaking than what happened with Konami's new game, because by the time this happened, I already the battle was lost to me. Like we had already lost the fight. We lost the fight that with FIFA 16 because to me, Konami was just always going to feed us what we wanted to hear, and then ultimately make whatever game they wanted to make. And I mean, I just knew that they weren't headed in the direction I wanted them to head in.
Yeah.
Right. And FIFA 16 gave me so much hope that I was so in love with that game. And there's some mods out there for that game that are fucking incredible.
Oh, there's a stadium server.
Dude, there are some mods for that game that are incredible.
It's good to see the community get behind that game unpatched because it was a really solid base. That's what was so sad is if they patched it in that direction, it could have, Brian said EA have such capabilities to make a really fucking killer simulation. They have great tech, but like I think that's why they built their game on such great tech, is they know they need to pivot at any moment, and they can do that because of how they've built the game. They're like, I mean, I envision a bunch of like internal sliders that we don't have access to. I know that's not the case, but like I think there's probably some truth to that, that they can then
they tie a lot of shit
back.
To their stats,
they can pull it back.
A lot of shit is tied to their stats. Like I've seen some mods in there that just because of the stat changes, you suddenly are seeing animations you've never seen before. Players are reacting in ways that you've never seen before. It was incredible. And then EA decided to do what they did because of the complaints. And I just that broke me, man. Like I just
isn't that Jose? Isn't that like if EA goes the route of they see what they're doing with what Konami's doing, they make Foot a separate game, and then you could download career mode or online career mode or whatnot, and it be a separate game. I know you guys had mentioned, splitting up 2 dev teams, but would EA do that? But the reality is, when they're patching these games, isn't it like different sliders or for different metrics or whatever, Matt? Like I know you're big in that. So really, you're not.
That's all it is.
You're not creating something different. You're just changing the slider metrics for different aspects of the gameplay tailored to career mode. So you don't have to have
two effects on the game, though.
Exactly. So you don't have to have 2 different dev teams. So that's why that was my thought process of it. And now all of a sudden you're making both fan bases happy. Now you don't have to worry about getting shit from one fan base or the other fan base. Because I see Chris Davies' tweets all the time at the EA developers, and let me say, Chris, they are not nice. You are not a nice person. The things that you say,
he's not mad, he's disappointed.
I think you're very polite. I actually think you're very well behaved.
I'm very calm. I'm very collected. I just point out the fact that what they're doing is a pile of shit. No, what I just point out.
I said that to their face. They did not like it.
He did. I heard it.
Oh my God! I remember that. I was there.
I've never been more angry.
Dude. When Charles was like, Charles. Do you see how this guy's running in a circle?
During their presentation, they were filming.
Are you serious? You did that?
They were filming during their presentation. I'm like,
they almost called security.
You're like, this is wrong.
I was not allowed back.
Not follow the laws of physics. And the guys in the faces, they're just like, the fuck's this kid?
What was the word that made him drink every time?
you know what's
That's hilarious,
funny, though,
dude.
in all this is like when we talk about Konami, like we always talk about it in relation to eFootball or PES, and we think of it as of traditionally as PES as like this small game, right? Like it's a small community niche based game, but it's owned by a behemoth. I mean, Konami is not a small gaming company. I mean, they're like 4, 5, 6 billion in revenue every year.
Yeah.
Like I said, Metal Gear Solid.
Dude, they have their own water bottles. Like they literally like how we have like Deer Park and Dasania and all this stuff here in the US. They have their own water.
They control the water supply to Japan.
I always think like Konami to me always like, or just like even just like eFootball for crying out loud. Always like,
cheers.
Yeah, exactly. Always makes me feel like likened to like your favorite band that you only know about.
Yeah.
That you're like, oh man, nobody else knows who these guys are, right? And I'm the only one who knows about them. Only a select few of us know them, right? And and now they've become super popular, and everybody's getting in on them. And
they sold out. That band
exactly.
sold out.
Well, that's
I remember
that's
that.
exactly what it
Different
in that
band, man.
sense. It's just a different band, and they've left you, and they've gone digital. They're on Spotify now, and
Yeah.
you know, and they're taking down your videos because they're using their music. You know, it's kind of it's kind of the same feeling in that sense because it's
crazy
like
with copyright stuff.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
oh,
Give
it's
me a break,
ridiculous.
YouTube.
I made sure not to play any music during this, so you know.
Yeah.
But that's really what it feels like at times because like PES, damn it, but it just felt like
Stop it, man. We all got to work.
I know it's getting there, but it's just like and then everybody's getting in on it, and now it's modernizing, and it's kind of leaving us behind.
Yeah.
And there was a time, and Charles, you talked about it, like how like Footy U, you know, this podcast, you guys kind of ran out of what to talk about essentially, right? Because like because you're talking about the same things,
For
right?
about 7 years.
Exactly. And so now we've got this big, massive change. Even though the way they gave it to us feels like it's, hurting us a little bit. But at the same time, it's something new to talk about. And it's something, no matter what the facts are, that it's something new and it's something that's absolutely changing. And it's not just changing for us, the hardcore band, lovers. It's changing for everybody. It's changing for the My Club guys. It's changing for the competitive guys. It's changing, to all sorts of levels. And when you talk about like, is it a good move? On one hand, I feel like it is the move that it needed to be done essentially, because I don't think it would have got over FIFA. No matter what, FIFA is never going to be the gameplay king compared to the game we're talking about. I can't get it right anymore. but that's what I'm saying. And if you think about it, is it a good move? Essentially, I think it is. It's just a good move for who? And for us, I feel like I said earlier, exactly, it's a good move for Konami, but does that then help every single demographic? For us, I think it still leaves us a little behind, because what scares me, like I said earlier, is what's the value going to be for those DLCs? And then we haven't even talked about what's the impact is it going to do for the modding community? Option files. Can you guys think if this goes server side, option files are dead. You want to get a Master League DLC and they've got no sense of edit mode, or not even just edit mode, but maybe it can't be shared or whatever limitation pushes through. We talked about DMs, like takedowns and whatnot. Like, think about that from a licensing perspective.
That's a really good point.
It's scary in that sense, because so like I keep like I got like the angel and the devil on my shoulder here telling me the good and bad of kind of like what's going on. See, I got the drink and the devil hand, but but that's the reality of like what we have to realize. It's like this is maybe changing for the future, but it's gonna leave some of us. It's gonna leave a lot behind, but it's gonna also open a lot of questions. Because can you guys imagine playing PES with no option file? Because what made it so important? eFootball. You know what I mean. I was talking about in the past tense, because
I mean PES without option files.
What we're getting. Thank you. Actually, Charles, that's a great point. But that's what I'm saying though. But like, let's say the big thing that we always talked about. But what if you can't share it? What if you do an edit mode and it's just server side, like just local side? Can you imagine what that will do to some websites that specialize in that?
Look at PES Universe. Those guys.
Exactly. These are the guys that have like been like Konami's retweeted them. Official football.
I heard it's gonna be eFootball Universe. That's what Barry told me. So I just want you to know it's no longer.
A lot of people
PES
have branding
Universe.
issues right now.
A
Ew.
lot of people have branding issues.
Look at the foresight we had. We went from PES United to Footy United. Look at us.
We're prepared. We're prepared, bro.
I let the guy who has the at PES sucks on Twitter know that it needs to be at eFootball.
eFootball.
So there's
Everybody's eFootballing.
But
eFootballing.
It's a great point though, Matt. And I think their messaging is so convoluted that obviously they, like you guys have brought up, I don't know, 3 times already, they don't have game modes. Master League was mentioned, afterward. You know what though? Fuck them using their same terms from PES. Like, if you're gonna leave PES, then you don't get the you have to rename Master League. Go ahead,
Otherwise, it's pointless.
You don't get to keep your goddamn PES terms. We own those.
That's just more emphasis to
That's
do
right,
Master
the
League
people own 'em.
online.
Now people own it.
Yeah,
Like if they brought back Master League, let's say you can't do
I
option
know.
files, but then they bring Master League online. Like,
yeah, that
ooh,
would make it
nice.
work.
wouldn't that work? That
Yeah,
would
that
be
would make it work.
Yeah.
I would be game for that. I would pay money for that.
They had
See,
something going there.
I think it's hard.
Yeah,
Like,
you know what's funny, Jose?
go ahead, dude.
No, Jose, I don't mean to cut you off. What I was going to say is, wouldn't it be funny if like the Master League comes out in the spring with the edit mode and it's DLC and you buy it and watch the gameplay just be amazing. And we're like,
Dude,
oh, man.
that's where I was gonna go
What
with
the
this. Like,
fuck?
I think
Oh, okay.
I think it's interesting
Would
because
we
like
be so
Why
lucky?
did you scare us?
we've been nothing but negative, right? Like, I mean, I wouldn't say negative. I guess realistic is the way I would describe the way we've been, just kind of
I
grounded.
think we're all
on-
open for this to be
Yeah.
great. We're just very pessimistic.
Yes,
on
Take a
purpose.
drink.
That's a good.
God
that's
damn
that's
it.
a good way to put it. We're pessimistic. I fear there won't be any evolution this year, or maybe there will be. I don't know.
Pro.
I still think there's a good
depends on,
chance, dude. I think there's a good chance that we could get some decent gameplay at the very least, and it might be fun to play. And ultimately, what else do we want? You know, like if the game is fun to play, then that's what we're looking for, a game that's fun to play that we just enjoy playing. And whether it's Master League in the traditional sense or some new mode that we have no idea what they're putting in this game, so we really don't know. It could turn out to be great. It could turn out great, and we really don't. Based on what we've seen, we have to be cautious, but it could still turn out good. At least what we have is clear messaging.
What? What'd you say?
Clear
We have clear
messaging.
messaging?
Yeah, we know. We know.
What?
He's
We
branching
know
from what I said
do
because
not have
the
clear
facts are
messaging.
we know something's changing.
We know that this game is not going to be a PlayStation 5 game. We know that our expectation can't be this fucking grandiose game that we've been envisioning for 2 years.
Jose,
Konami
can
has
I
never
get that
been more
clear
clear
messaging
than
code
this.
again?
They've never been more clear than this, dude. Think about it. Think about it. Let me ask you this. When was the last time the entire PES community agreed on something?
Today.
Yeah, okay.
Does
I
that
see where you're
happen-
saying,
does
Jose.
that happen
But this is like what the
does that
Super
happen if the
League-
message is so fucking convoluted and hard to understand? No, the message is clear as fuck.
Yeah.
They said fuck PES.
Yeah,
said,
we don't have
"Fuck your
names for our
nostalgia."
modes, and we just
They said,
released the
"Fuck
trailer.
all the-
That's the
Yeah.
clear messaging.
Yes,
What?
yes.
I
The
think
clear
we only have-
message is we know exactly what to expect from Konami. Something fucking brand new. They don't even know what the fuck they're gonna do. But we
This
don't
is
have
very interesting perspective.
we don't have the
on
hope.
this.
We don't have the hope that we used to have.
I see what you're saying.
have
I
nothing to hold on
get
to.
yeah, I
We
get
have
what you're
nothing
saying, Jose.
Like all of this is going to be new.
Yeah.
Absolutely, all of it is going to be new. So we can go in with a brand new perspective on whatever the fuck they decide to do, because clearly they haven't decided. Like that nothing's clear about what we
Yeah.
we don't know anything about eFootball, but we do know that the game that we've always known to be and the things that we wanted the game to be it's just not going to be that.
Yeah.
That's clear as fucking day.
Yeah.
Like
Well, let me ask
the
you this
community
then,
hasn't
Jose.
agreed on anything for like 10 years now.
Yeah.
No.
we
That's
all
true.
we all agree today, and that's because they made it very clear what the fuck what they're gonna do is not what we want.
Hey,
That's a good point.
Jose,
Change is change.
before Charles chimes in, I got to ask you something. You're looking a little beefy, man. You got that dad bod going on, that dad 15.
Yeah.
I got it going on too, baby. I'm with you. I just want to say
Dude,
that,
I haven't
you know what I'm saying?
haven't worked out in like 2.5 months.
I just noticed. I'm like, man, Jose's looking like he's got a little weight on him, man.
Yeah.
And then you have KG, who's
Yeah,
like taking-
KG's like pumping iron
The
daily.
opposite beef.
working out.
This is like
I got my
muscle
work from
build.
home bod, man.
Yeah.
I gotta
Work
change
from home
my-
bod.
Yeah.
I had to change my pro clubs build. Gotta be
Yeah.
a hold up striker. I gotta stop fucking eating. That's what I gotta do.
Should we,
About to
should
get a
we
snack.
look at questions? Should we do Konami? You wanted to talk about
Yeah.
or go over some questions that you had on Twitter. You had a pretty good thread going over there. So should
Yeah,
we
that was a good thread.
should we look
So,
at questions or concerns? 'Cause
I
we
told
almost
people
transitioned to FIFA naturally.
Yeah, and I want to talk a little bit about FIFA 22 because I know
me too.
Chris Davies is all about that, John. Actually, he's for
Chris gets the last word because he's not spoken enough, and the man is not asleep.
I know you stayed up late for us, and you need to chime in because Jose will start
His
talking
hat
about
says
Street Fighter
everything. The hat says it all.
Yeah.
That's it. All you need is a close up of the hat. That's all you need. You don't need anything else.
I fucking love it, baby.
You trace that?
You know I love
pretty
it.
good.
You know I love it.
Yeah, it is.
I like the logo. Yeah.
So Gabe Logan at SZ Koki wrote, "Rip Pez, you made my childhood and brought closer together with my brother and with other people from all over the globe.
Aww.
The decision makers should choke on their mobile." I like that. Okay, Gabe. I like where you're going with that.
I like this.
Pez
This is
rumors.
nice.
I can play the Hulk music walking away, on the road if you want.
Let's
And
do
in the
that.
background.
Well, anything that it's going to be on YouTube.
Yeah.
So we don't
Oh,
wanna get,
never mind. I don't want to get
I
taken
don't know how
down.
monetization works.
Use
out.
our option
I just
file
don't want
before
to
we
take it
start.
down.
No,
But we
no,
should
no,
do a
no.
toast. We should definitely
We will.
toast to Pez when
We will
we're
toast
done with
every
these
time.
comments because it's the end of an
Yeah, we
era.
will.
It really is the end of an era.
Hey, I really want to get to FIFA 22, but
Yeah, me too.
Here we go. Pez rumors. Pez is officially in the mud. No coming back from this change in direction, as I anticipate they'll make more money than ever in the next few years. I agree. Christ Wage wrote, "My one and ultimately only grievance is that they lied for us for 2 years, selling us a season update on that lie." And that's that's pretty much my grievance as well. It's not the business model. I understand the business
how they did
model,
it,
but
how they went about it.
Yeah,
it's how they
not that
did it.
you-
They we got this Unreal and we're making this sim, blah blah blah, and then you get this, and you're like, we waited for this. Like,
Real quick though, and this is what I was going to say to Jose though, is that I agree with you. It was direct messaging that Pez is dead, or that what you know is gone. This is the future. It's a new game. It's a new everything. But then there was some, not official, but there was some feedback like, wait till August. Wait till you'll see the next gen version. So then it's trying to pull you back, and that I'm not having that shit.
Yeah,
Sorry.
no.
Lip service.
But we can confidently feel that now. We can say, no, that's bullshit. And whereas before we would have been like, oh fuck, I mean the demo sucked, but maybe when it comes out, like, or I don't know, like we always used to have that. Now it's clear as day.
Something wrong with
We already know. Like we know they're not going to give us.
There was a good back and forth. Z Meister, who I really like, who's a Barca fan, big Pez fan. He said, "Why can't people embrace change? Konami, in my opinion, are on the right path. I was shocked at first, but now I'm ready to give this a go." And that's kind of what Jose said. We understand, but who knows? The game, this Master League, excuse me, it could be good. It could be good. But Christ Wage chimed in and said, "I agree that it's changed. It's changed from a hotel with a casino to a slot machine in the back room of a brothel." So, I totally understand.
That is good.
I like that.
The other guy,
It's no
Mickey,
chance.
said they should call it
Right.
football Fortnite. I agree
Say it
with
again.
that.
I missed it.
What was it, B?
You think that? They said they should call the game football Fortnite because I think one of the dev producers talked about like some of the content in one of his interviews, something about like at Halloween time they'll have players could have costumes or shit like that. So that's where
Like
that's
in the old
Fortnite
days when you
aspect.
could have them look like ostriches
with like
players
the
riding
peacock
ostriches.
and the ostrich. Yeah. Mark Green asked, "Looking forward to this great title podcast. Would you guys like to discuss whether or not you think this has been the plan all along, or if Konami scrapped PES 2022 in the last year because of development issues?" I think we touched on that a little bit.
We did,
because of COVID, but I don't think so. I think this was the plan all along.
Me too.
They
Plan
said
for sure.
As soon as they
Yeah.
changed the title, you can't go back and look at that eFootball. That's a huge change. That was a big change then. It's been the plan.
We all ignored it, but
Yeah.
I didn't know about the mobile
we
downloads.
did ignore it. People just ignored
we all
it.
just ignored it. Yeah.
They
Yeah.
put a whole phrase, eFootball, in front of their game, and we all was like, well, whatever. Maybe they're Konami do whatever the fuck they want. Like that was writing on the wall. Literally was writing on the box.
Well, I was just naive. I was just like, okay, they're gonna focus
Sure.
on competitive gaming. Great,
Right.
enjoy that. I'm not gonna watch it, but that they want to get into that market. Great, go for it. More stream of income.
Mike O'Donnell, Mike OD79. He's my homie. I'm sorry, Chris. Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead. What were you saying?
No, I was just going to say the thing that doesn't sit right about it with me is that after the season update last year, they said you're going to get this incredible Master League. It's in the works. They put that in their little press bit.
Right.
So that's, I think, where the idea that something has changed is coming from, because that seemed to be a focus and now it's absolutely definitely not. So I can see why people might think something has changed here, and the development team seems to have got smaller as well from tidbits that you can find on Twitter. But by the same token, as you said, it was
like a lot of the Western developing team members aren't there anymore.
That's the question I forgot to go over before we do the next.
I've been told to my face though.
Are the English guys gone?
I don't know.
The shoes guy is gone.
I know. I think like Lenny's gone, who did stuff. I think obviously
a lot of people have
Sims
posted recently
Adam
that they
took
left.
a different job in Konami. So
I've been told to my
face
face
any of the
things
Western. I think it's all in Japan.
That don't turn out to happen, right? Like, and I've been promised, like, yeah, dude, like this is going to be exciting. I can't wait for you guys to see this. And for some reason,
I paid that stripper in LA for Nico, and Nico said he was going to give me money back. And Nico, you still never paid me. I got you that lap dance. Still owe me money from that bathroom stripper in LA. Charles,
I was there. I was so drunk I thought the mirror on the side of the wall was the room going on. It was I was like, this is a big place.
Still mad at EA that night, it sounds like.
I was messed up.
Yeah.
You missed out, Jose. You and Esther went home to read books or something, I think.
We did.
Cuddle.
Yeah. We did exactly that, bro.
All right, next question.
So Mike O'D, love Mike. Okay, here's mine. They're taking one of the greatest franchises in gaming history and turning it into a loot box game, a fucking cash in, using this idea of the beautiful game to get mostly kids to gamble their money away. It's the gaming industry at its worst. And for the record, they've been on this path for years. This is just the final step. Yeah. And Jose responded 100. Yep, I agree.
There are no football games left. The football games are done. There's only football themed.
Yes.
I've been a sim works for 2K now. I've been like a sim, get 2K into the marketplace, like do something, get in there, like please. What's going on here?
That would be incredible.
It would
take time, but it would be
incredible. Do you guys think that's possible? Sorry, that's a
2K
big topic.
Play 2K soccer.
Do you think that's possible?
They have an interesting model with NBA 2K. They show that there is a fan base that I don't know what their numbers are.
NBA 2K is a hardcore game. It's built for the hardcore fans. And
that's another question that comes up.
Yeah.
What constitutes hardcore in your guys' opinion?
That's true.
They're 2K like
a sim, hardcore sim.
So FIFA has sliders. 2K has sliders on top of sliders.
Advanced sliders.
Yeah. It is like not only like they're very 2K and Konami are very alike in the way that like their game animates, they move, like they're about like foot planning, they're about momentum. Like they try to respect the laws of physics, but 2K has the tech to pull it off. So like all the crappy stuff you see in PES where you're like, oh, my foot's sliding or I'm hitting it with the wrong foot, a ball in the box. Like 2K's stuff is usually airtight. I mean, there's still, bugs and things like that, but
of course.
They're just like 2K is the gold standard when it comes to sports games. Like as much as Madden sells, as much as FIFA sells, quality wise, like 2K has a reputation of being like on top of the mountain.
Does that include the show?
Dude, even their last college
higher than the
game
show
was amazing.
The show's really good too.
And don't forget, 2K also has history of doing something different in the market with NFL 2K5 when it came out.
Yeah.
ESPN football, it came out with $20 while Madden was still $50 at that time.
Matt,
and
I look at you.
Difference.
Matt, I look at you. You have this soft voice. Your voice doesn't match your face. Like whenever I talk with you, I never see your face. Then we connect.
You superficial bastard! Would you leave people alone tonight?
This is all virtual background. I don't know what you're talking about.
Wait, we connected on LinkedIn, and I'm like, that's what Matt looks like. I was like, I never thought Matt would look like that.
Does anybody else think Brian looks exactly like what he sounds
exactly like I thought.
Exactly what?
Yeah, exactly.
right, so
that's hilarious.
Yuri Costa says 2 years in development, and this is what we got. Nothing shown yesterday was a wow factor, more like a what the fuck, mom. And I said, you tell me.
I saw I saw that. That's good.
Man.
Mickey wrote, you're on a big fancy PS5 at home with the top possible speeds, and you're playing somebody in the shitter with 3G, and then his mommy phones him to ask him what he wants for dinner.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, KG responded, Mom, the meatloaf! One guy,
So
I
true.
can't read it, NKP20 MUFC football. It's fucking complete and utter shite. 9 fucking teams, fucking 10 months of exhibition matches.
We didn't even
waiting
talk
for
about
a
that.
shit half-baked
Yeah.
Master League. Tell me
Well,
how
does
you
it-
really feel, buddy.
Yeah.
Tell me.
That's a good point, though.
At this point,
It's
it
a
doesn't
demo.
matter to talk
Yeah.
about eFootball. Does it matter to talk about it? We don't know fucking shit about it.
No, but I want to talk about that because I wrote it down and I forgot to bring it up.
It's a free.
We're talking about 9 teams. I want to talk
It's a
about what does that
free
mean?
demo.
Talk about the change. Let's talk
Yeah.
about the
But
change.
what does the 9 teams mean? And it's only
That it's a f-
online, right? It's
that
not
it-
going
and
to
it's
launch with any
exhibition,
AI.
like,
No
it's-
CPU games at all. I just have to play Brian all day.
It's a free demo. It's just a
Yeah.
fucking.
It's the
free
fucking
demo.
Super League.
Yeah.
Is what it is.
Yeah, Brian
Like,
said that earlier.
Play with 9 teams. I think there was a line in the thing. It was like play with the top teams.
Well, no, but I
Yeah.
was saying with the Super League is like,
Fucking
I felt
Perez
like
is
the Pez,
Power League.
building this game.
I felt like the Pez community's reaction was like the Super League's reaction. It was like,
Yeah.
we're not asking for this, but you're trying to give it to us. And I
Yeah.
think
Make
that's
fucking
like,
money.
That
Like
is
with Konami, it's
eFootball
like,
2022
we're not asking-
in a nutshell.
Yeah.
we're
That's
not
exactly
asking
it.
this from Konami. They're just giving it to us.
Yeah.
And it's like
They
that
know
same
what we want.
reaction.
They know
Nobody
better.
asked for this.
No, thank you. We're okay with
Hey,
what we had.
I want
Just
to
make it a little bit better, like put a little bit more spice into it.
That's all it
a little
was,
bit more
KG.
Seasoning, like
yeah.
just a little,
Oh,
just a
this is
little.
making the
Little
AI
salt.
a little bit. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying?
No, let's reinvent
like
the
sprinkle-
wheel.
Sprinkle of salt.
Yeah. There you go.
Wait, so I want to ask, if we transition a little bit, I want to ask Chris Davies, your impressions of what you saw from FIFA 22.
Hold on. We got. That's perfect. Let's
Oh, we got
transition to
more
FIFA.
pens?
You want me to mute him? I can mute him if you'd like.
No, we just want to do a toast.
I'll make sure B never
We
talks.
just want to we just want to do a toast first because this is it to PES, to the end of an era, to friends and memories and moments and all kinds of bad bitches along the way.
All the shit Konami can't take away from us.
To Nestor, who never
Nico.
shows up
Nico,
anymore because
Nico,
he's playing with
congratulations
himself.
on getting
Who's
married,
got the
Nico, but you
girliest
still owe
drink
me
in
money
hand?
for that
Oh,
stripper.
White Claw. He's
I
drinking a
must.
White Claw.
I'm not drinking.
I'm
I'm
not
not
like that.
drinking.
I
You're
got
on
alcohol at
recovering
all.
a rock star
Yeah,
with your work
Chris
from
has
home
got
bod.
something pink.
yeah.
Yeah, raspberry beer. It's not exactly the most hardcore, but it's
I got
fun
a
last
lot,
year, so-
but there's a lot of it. It's
I got a Long Island
it's
iced
20
tea.
ounces. All right, Tepez.
I
We'll
like
miss
it,
you.
Matt.
We'll
I
miss
like
you
Tepez.
very much.
the Pez.
Tepez.
Pez.
Pez. To Pez.
God, I feel a tear coming.
All right, Brian, ask your FIFA questions.
Let's hear it.
So I wanted to talk to Chris because Chris has been hounding the FIFA devs for about the last 10 years with regards to the midfield and the AI tracking. And yeah, what'd you think of FIFA 22? The videos that you saw and the announcement and everything, Chris. So go ahead.
I think when it comes to the tracking, you're best asking Matt about that. I mean, I have my opinions about it, but I would always bow to Matt's opinion on this stuff because his sliders make the game playable, as far as I'm concerned. Without those, I wouldn't be playing it now. It looks good, but stop showing off your Italy
That's
shirt.
like
I don't
cable
think
guy
about
right
that
there.
now.
Well, I was giving a heart to Matt.
Oh,
a heart to
Billy.
Matt, baby.
Heart symbol on your Italy shirt. No. Yeah, the technology that they're showing is, look, of the two games between eFootball, or as it was PES, and FIFA, I've always thought that FIFA over the last 5-6 years has been much closer to the game that I want to play in terms of, it feels like they're making a simulation themed game, even though there's a lot of it that's taken out and tweaked for the sake of
Themed is a
general
good way to
public.
put it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. They have, I mean, that whole presentation that they did the other day, they talked about realism all the way through it. And the technology that they're using to try and implement some of that, and it sounds great, and they seem very passionate about it. And I mean, it really comes off quite strongly that they do care about it, about realism. But then when the game comes out and it goes through beta and it starts off really well, and then they start to, I'm not scoring enough goals, says, kids, 2012. Okay, right, we'll change that then. And it just degrades and degrades and degrades. So whatever I would think about it now, I'd be worried that it would change within the next few months anyway. But I mean, in general, in terms of tracking and stuff like that, from what I can see, there's an improvement. But seeing the defenders move from the ball to the ball side and defend a little bit more zonally is satisfying to see that. But the core of it is I'm still not seeing midfielders tracking back. I'm seeing midfielders getting to a point and then just switching off, like someone's just flicked a switch on the back of them and gone, no, you cannot be involved in the defending process at all, because you have to be ready for a pass that's going to come to you as soon as this attack is over, so that you can counter, which leads to it just being counter versus counter versus counter, which I think is just really boring. And, I honestly think, hand on heart, maybe I'm completely naive. Well, I am naive, but I think that if they made FIFA more of a realistic game, and it was more of a grind, and it was more difficult, I think that a lot of people who wouldn't have considered, they just buy the game, they don't think about the kind of level of difficulty or anything else. I think a lot of people would go, I am feeling satisfaction in playing a very tough game and there being a few 0-0s, and then suddenly I get a chance and it goes in and it's 1-0. And oh my God, I achieved something there. Instead of it being, I won that one 3-0, I won that one 4-0, I lost that one 6-0, which is, I mean, that's my experience, mostly the latter, but that's my kind of experience with FIFA. It's just goal fests and sprint fests and everything else. I honestly think if the balance was changed, and it sounds like they are moving towards that, as maybe it's wishful thinking, but it does sound like with all of their talk of realism, it's what they're at least trying to do. That that's what they're moving towards. But I do wonder if they keep moving towards it and will then always keep moving away from it as soon as the kind of beta tests happen, because for as much as they're making a better game, as far as we're concerned, if we could play what they're playing now, looking at the kind of movement that's in it, as soon as the public gets hold of it, as soon as the beta testers get hold of it, there will be too much of a noise for them to ignore it and go, no, we're going to stick to our guns here and make the game we want to make, which is just, it's sad, but it's a business. It's not, they're not making a work of art. They're not making a love letter to football like PES 5 felt like it was to me. And even when you read the kind of instruction manuals and the strategy guides that had kind of translated bits of text from Seabass and the,
oh man, that PES 6 strategy guide was awesome.
Yeah,
I know,
it really is
exactly what you're talking about.
You can feel, it sounds ridiculous, but in the way that it's written and the comparisons to real football, and if you do this strategy, if you put your defensive line quite high up, then it will work in this way versus if you put it deep. The whole explanation of it in a footballing sense, instead of just a kind of a cheap gamey sense, just defensive line up or down kind of thing, you really felt like it was a love letter to the game. And I still feel like that when I play it now, and I do. You were talking about FIFA 16 before. There's a whole thread on Eva where the people who have that unpatched version on PC and mod it to death. And once or twice a week, people will post their kind of video highlights of a few games, because it's such a good game. And I think, those times seem to be gone. But I really think if they did keep it more realistic, a lot of people would be surprised to find that they were quite happy that suddenly it's a grind and winning is a really satisfying thing, as opposed to just the norm.
I have a theory about that.
That's so good, Chris. Yeah.
Yeah. I think
excellent dialogue.
Yeah, I think you're I think you're right. I think as gamers, we like to think that we know what we want, but we don't really know what we want. And the proof in that is that brand new experience that comes out every so often that everybody just raves about. And we had no idea we wanted that. We would have never came up with that if that developer would have came to us and said, hey, what do you want in a game? We would have probably made something that's already available, right? But nothing new really would come from purely listening to fans. So I agree with you. I think that if they did change the game in that sense, to make it more difficult and more realistic in every possible way. I think a lot of people would, after the initial struggle, that's the hard part, is that nobody nowadays is willing to go through that initial struggle, and that includes our age group. All right, I think even within our demographic, we are in the small percentage, even within our demographic, and that's because we all work, we have kids, we have different reasons why we can't just invest the time that we used to be able to invest. So we also need a little bit quicker satisfaction than we would have when we were much younger and had a heck of a lot more time. If we had that time, we probably would be more patient and stick to what we want, but we just don't. So things have to change, right? Just naturally. So I think kind of EA has, since FIFA 16, um, slowly tried to push this realism talk. And they've gone really hard on at least the talk part of it. And the early versions of the game show that they're trying to implement the realism, and eventually just inevitably have to change it. But year after year, they keep on still pushing the realism. And little by little, FIFA's getting more realistic and more realistic and more realistic, to the point where it cannot be ignored anymore. There's a lot more realism in what happens in FIFA games than what happens in PES games. Maybe the way ultimately the game plays and flows is not the best, and that's why KG and Matt still play PES 2021. But ultimately, I think that EA wants to make the game we would play, and plain and simple can't. And little by little, they're pushing in, they're bringing that game in little by little, little by little. It's coming in, and I think it's going to take a lot more time than I wish it would. But one day, I think we'll have that game. The big question I have for at least myself is, will I care?
Yeah, that's a good
I mean,
point.
to get to Brian's point about me kind of haranguing EA on Twitter, which I am, the reason that it's so frustrating to me is that it's so close. You can feel how close it is to
always one thing.
They have that capability.
Yeah.
That's it. It's almost there. And if we could just convince them, keep it like this. I mean, Matt, I know when you were in the beta, the last beta, you tried so hard, and I mean, you said you had more likes than anybody else on that for more XP, as they call it.
I got like the leading XP, Chris, like, and you and I talked about it every single day, and I'd give you like, and I thought, okay, that's great. That means like people not just really.
If you're listening to the audio, be very happy that you did not choose to watch the video.
I mentioned XP, and this is what he does.
We got a very good view of the Italian stallion.
Oh man! Oh man!
A miniature version.
What I missed.
A mini version.
Lost my train of thought. I'm going to take a sip.
No, I think what you were kind of.
No, Matt was talking about his XP.
No, he's talking about EA and just
let KG take it.
We know that they have the tech to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they've proved that to us. We know that they actually can, because they showed us in 16, even though they quickly pivoted to another type of gameplay style. And Jose made a great point. Like, every year they add like one or two things that kind of just like, oh, that's a pretty cool feature. One year they added some new tactics and things like that. They updated like career mode, and then a couple gameplay tweaks here and there. Like, movement is starting to get a little bit better. It's still way too skatey.
Yeah.
And like at times it looks very like cartoonish. Like FIFA, I always thought FIFA looked fantastic at a standstill, but once it gets in motion, you're like, oh, that's a video game.
Yeah.
But there's times when I'm playing PES where my wife will come in and she'll look at the screen and be like, it might be it's probably a cut scene where you're super zoomed in graphics and everything's really nice, and she'll be like, oh, what game is that? And I'll be like, oh, this is my Villarreal Master League, baby. Like, we're playing a big one against Huesca. Like, if we win, we're going to be in 4th place. But she just like
go spend time with the kids, motherfucker.
I know, right? Just like EA they have the tech, they have the wherewithal, they have the brains to do it. Like Jose was saying, we have to show them kind of that this is what we want and this is what the gameplay should be about. Like, how to do it, it's harder said than done. I don't know if maybe it's more influencers that we, they have gameplay kind of similar to ours, where like, we prefer, more realistic match flow. You know what I mean? You've got to actually pass the ball backwards. Like your keeper might even get like a few passes in. You know what I mean? We play a few balls with his feet, things like that, as opposed to just fast forward back and forth like Chris alluded to. But that's what EA seems to like. Like even if you look at their Twitter and you look at like their fleets, they're all skills. Like it's all goals of the week, which would be such a cool idea considering the reach that FIFA has. But like highlight like the real goals. Like you've got the license for like Man City. Like if someone scores a goal and uploads it, that's like a goal that was just scored in real life. Like put the voiceover over it. Like do something that promotes.
I like that.
Your game looking like what real footy looks like. But I also think that a lot of the younger generation they prefer to watch FIFA than they do real
soccer.
Yeah, real soccer.
Interesting.
And I think it's partly because of just the ADD society that we have now with so much information at our fingertips. And like we all grew up on video games, but video games wasn't like 24/7 like it is now. Like you get it on your phone, you get it, sometimes on your TV, on your devices, on your consoles.
You had it one stream. Right,
we had
there.
it one avenue. You turn it on, you turn it off. It's done. You might find a strategy book like B was talking about earlier, but other than that, that was it. But now it's like it's a business, and it's so huge. It's up there with movies. It's up there with music. It's not on that level yet, but it's a huge avenue where we're seeing like people monetize off it, like Jose was saying, and make a living and ultimately complain if the game shifts more towards our side of the house. But it's just, I think EA is just in such a precarious situation where ultimately they just go with the majority and they go with their bottom line and their business interests, and as opposed to maybe like Chris was saying, the passion and just the love that the developers actually have for the game, but knowing that they probably get overruled by the bottom line.
Well, I think that's really what it's come down to. It's like I'm a big fan of Sam Rivera's vision. Like
Which one is Sam Rivera?
He's the lead producer, isn't he?
He was the
main guy.
He was everywhere for 21. He was all over, and he was one of the 4 guys.
Yep.
Okay, I know the guy you're talking about.
Yeah, because the way he speaks about the technology and how it's integrated into the vision, of course, I like that aspect of things. The thing is, 21 really ruined. Like I lost a lot of faith in their approach in 21. Chris can agree, because from a slider perspective, anytime we work on sliders, it's usually just to accomplish one little thing and just fix one little thing, and then just improve the whole, kind of the whole ethos, if you will, of the game from there. But when you start troubleshooting for that one specific thing and spending hours upon hours on that, and then also getting feedback saying that this is by design, it's, the midfield tracking back, for example, and completely absent, by design. And then you bring it up to the social world. And then you've got people, and Chris has been in these debates, we'll say it, where you get those guys who are online players and saying, well, it's AI defending. I'm like, well, you brought AI defending away from the CPU who needs to actually defend, So like you're taking these concepts, and it kind of blows your mind of how far off, we are in agreement. And what happens is every single year, and even for 22, I'm hoping, is that I hope Foot Crowd gets super happy. I just hope they just stay happy and just give us just a little slice. Just give us a little slice that because they are happy, we're going to get a little bit of, part of what we're looking for. Because I think that's kind of all I'm after at this point with FIFA specifically. I love the technology. I love the, the vision and everything. But I'm also pessimistic because I don't think it's for me, just for me. I think it's going to help down the road. It's going to help because it's not going to be removed. Like they're not going to hopefully not remove the 11v11 concept, right? That speaks good to me, but I know they can maybe mess it up a little bit in another, update or something like that. So it's almost like you just kind of just want to skate by. You just want to kind of hope, okay, did we survive after this patch update? Did we survive after the next patch update? Like FIFA 16 is a great example.
That's why I gave up. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's why I gave up, because they can just at any moment just fuck everything up.
Yep. And
we know that
the
they
demand.
do that. We know they do. I want to ask a question real quick because it's very intriguing to me. Because here's somebody that has not bought FIFA since 16. I was so disillusioned, so pissed off after a game I thought was really good and launched FIFA 16. I'm also a big fan of FIFA games actually at the start of generations because I think EA loves their tech. I think they get genuinely excited about new tech and new functionality, and you get a game towards the beginning of the generation, maybe the one slightly after, as we're seeing in this case, because FIFA 21 Next Gen was just hair physics. We know that. No, we know that.
No, that's true.
So now they get a chance. It's really the first Next Gen game. FIFA 22.
Yeah.
But they always seem to push those new features the most. They're excited about them genuinely. FIFA 08, FIFA, the European, the Euros that year in 08, I really like. FIFA 09. FIFA 09 was one of my favorites. FIFA 14 Next Gen, really solid.
14 Next Gen was good.
14 Next Gen was fucking good. Better ball physics than
Charles,
any FIFA game after.
It all the time.
Hold on. I played a lot of it. And then FIFA 16.
No, you don't tell me. Hold on. I tell you.
You don't tell me what to do. All right. We can argue later, baby. Go
ahead. Sorry.
I want to know why. So that's my perspective, but I want to know why. As a guy who found the presentation really interesting, Brian and I talked about it. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I liked it. I thought it was really promising.
Yeah,
I think
I'm
tech.
excited for it.
I think the tech seemed to show. I'm a fan of when FIFA looks different. FIFA has not looked different to me in 5 or 6 years.
That's a good point.
It looked different. I'm not saying it's going to be great, but and I've also
different.
rephrased my expectations. I'm not looking for the perfect footy game, which I have been for years and makes me want to kill myself. I'm looking for a game that I can play for 2-3 weeks and not hate it. And that's fine. That's like my expectation. But but it does look different. Holy shit. The passing kind of looks like PES. The ball has maybe FIFA 14 physics where it's actually hanging up in the air a little bit on a long pass. There's some shit there within the first, even if it doesn't survive, whatever. I didn't turn off the video right away. And for the last 5 years, I see even a deep dive like this, I turn the thing off. I'm like, that's FIFA. It's still going to be FIFA, but it's different. So my question, though, is why were those guys talking to me? Those devs were talking about realism for 20 to 30 minutes about how all these features and about how recording a whole 11 versus 11 match, which I think is so cool. Great technology. And actually, I think the way they phrased it, it looked like they got all these players together for one match.
Competitive match.
I don't think they actually did more than one match.
Yeah, they did.
And they got all that information from one match, which makes me even more excited because I'm like, could they go do another match? Yeah. And then we get double the animations and double the feedback. But all that, my question is, if it's all...
Well, Charles.
Yeah. Yes,
you
sir.
Cut him off right before his question.
I want to finish
I
know I go on and on.
I know what his question...
Yeah, well, now I don't know what my question is
going to be, KJ.
No, hold on.
No, you show your mouth, KJ.
No, hold on. Just let me say this. If all the advertising, if all the games about, influencers and we know it's about tricks and all this shit, why is all the marketing about how realistic it is? So why does EA have that value there?
Maybe they already have them.
They already have them?
They already have the tricksters, the foot players by the balls.
So are we valuable? Are we valuable?
I don't know.
We keep saying we're not.
That's what I was saying earlier.
That I've never thought of.
That's really
a good point.
That's what I was saying earlier. I think
the biggest game in the world is talking about realism for 30 minutes. Or do they know that we're full of shit and we think we want realism, but we don't?
There's
there's something going on there, and I'm intrigued by that.
So let me spell it out.
Don't you point at me, young man.
I know. Where do you change this camera angle? Are you in your bathroom?
I'm uncomfortable with this camera angle. I'm looking up at you, Brian. I don't like this.
Are you in your bathroom?
No.
Okay.
I'm not in my bathroom.
Because this Zoom meeting wouldn't continue.
Would you put your mother at this angle?
My connection keeps going unstable, so that's why I keep going in. I'm trying to get close to the router and everything. So anyway, what I was going to say is, Charles, we had this conversation where it's like,
Yeah, we're on a podcast now, Brian, so we can have this conversation with everybody.
I know what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is they are giving the impression
Oh,
of
sorry, I'm gonna go on mute. My
they
dogs
think
are barking.
this is what people want. Like the foot people, they want to believe what they're playing is realism. So they're talking about realism. They're talking about this and that. Where I think we talked about if you had foot and career mode as separate modes. Now, do the foot people get upset because they're going, wait a second, are you telling me I'm not playing real footy? Are you telling me like I'm not playing a simulation? This isn't realistic. Like, so I think they talk about realism to make the people think that what they're playing is realism. And if that makes sense to you, how I'm trying to word it.
Yeah, that's my assumption as well, because I don't think they're actually. But then again, I get hooked in. I'm sucked in a little bit. I am genuinely interested. Now it might go away with the next time I see it, or after the beta doesn't survive the feedback.
Right.
Have you guys
heard?
But
we talked about how.
Have you guys heard?
Yeah.
FIFA people.
Have you heard, Jose? I'm trying to get my point across, but you guys always gotta talk. Go ahead, talk about Street Fighter. Go ahead. I'm listening.
Have you guys heard the FIFA influencers or YouTubers or people that do FIFA related podcasts talk about the game?
You mean about
I don't know
the announcement that was made, or
no, like about
general.
FIFA 21, about FIFA 20, about FIFA fucking 19.
Not a whole lot.
So over the years, I watch, I'll watch, because I'm like, dude, like, there's no way these people are that fucking disconnected from what I want, right? And I'll sit and I'll watch people that are competitive FIFA or foot gamers. And they do complain about how unrealistic the games are. They do complain about how they wish the game was better, more realistic. The passing mattered. That players like Verratti or whatever were important. They don't like that Busquets is an irrelevant fucking card in foot. You know, like they really do complain about that kind of shit.
But there's a threshold there in which they do complain about certain things, but they also complain about stats and how stats need to be 1-to-1. If a guy is a 99 shot power, I don't even know the term, he needs to be shooting it, or shot accuracy. In the 90th minute after he's gassed, he absolutely, even if he's a 99, he still can't miss. So it's the realism that we view versus the realism that they're looking at, which they're looking at the database, the stats, and what they paid for in that pack.
Yeah,
and
they also see Busquets as a number, so they get him, and he's like, Busquets is probably like 87 because he's older now, and his physical traits are probably trash.
Whack.
Right.
So they get him, and they're like, oh, Busquets 87. But if they got like a peak Barcelona Busquets, like a 2010, 2008 to 9, when he could actually move, and he's like a 95, they'd probably be like, oh yeah, that's like, I want him anchoring my midfield. Like, he can move it a little bit, he can pass. He's tall. It's I don't know. The foot crowd is just they're very unique to me. But I get what you're saying, Jose. Like, are we the crazy ones and everyone else is normal?
Right. And now I listen to people talk about this, and I'm like, well, we can't have that big of a disconnect.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I feel like even within foot, it's so big. There must be, I just said earlier, even within our demographic, we're a small percentage.
Yeah.
What percentage of the foot crowd are the people that I'm listening to? Like, how often do we and who is it that ultimately is making these changes? Because most people that I see talk about FIFA on YouTube or in podcasts want a more realistic game. And when they talk about it, they're not just mentioning like, oh, if their overall is an 87. No, they're actually going in and saying like, look, if you look at the entire fucking stat sheet for this player, this doesn't make sense. These stats are super high. They're completely irrelevant in what happens in foot. Right. So they are not just saying like, for the sake of my 95 overall rated player should be more impactful. They're actually talking about like the full breakdown. So it's more or less something we would talk about. So it's confusing in that sense. So But to go back to what you were saying about whether they're saying that just to convince us that we are playing a realistic game, I really think they want to make a more realistic game, and they're trying to convince people that that's what we want, is a more realistic game, so they can make a more realistic game. But I think it's too difficult to please both crowds without making two different games.
Yeah, completely.
I agree that the devs want to make a realistic game. I've had experiences where devs have told me that. And I think if you put yourself in the position of a dev and why they would be interested in, well, I guess certain devs, you would think it'd be a lot more fun to take inspiration from the real world and your knowledge and turn that into a game. But like, just to be devil's advocate, you could say the same thing about FIFA as a game that's not based in reality. It could be challenging and fun to just make. Like, FIFA to me is a game. It's like what we said before. Chris was like, we do not have a football game anymore. We do not have a simulation. We have these video games that are whatever they are, hockey on football on ice or whatever it is, masquerading in a football outfit,
inspired
trying to pretend
by football.
Yeah. So when I see stuff like this, and I'm a sucker for it, the devs talk about it like this, but I did think the tech, I was like, okay, this makes a lot of sense. And look, we're looking at new animations. Like, when's the last time FIFA moved differently? Probably 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, like moves. Frostbite.
Same.
I thought Frostbite was the end of FIFA for me. The ball was like a size 3. I mean, people, their feet were huge. They moved like more like hockey skaters than I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
And I watched this presentation. I was like, this looks like something I could play and not hate right away. So I thought that was huge.
That's the cool thing about the presentation that you bring up that you just said is like, when we were talking about with eFootball, it's like nobody asked for this. But with FIFA 22, nobody asked for this either.
Yeah.
But it's actually, now we're embracing it, you know? And it's like, wow, this is actually pretty cool. This is something I've always wanted. I didn't know I wanted, you know? And I think that's kind of the stark comparison right now that we're kind of wrestling with. It. Yeah, exactly. I didn't.
And I want to give credit where credit is due, because we always say, show us gameplay, show us. Well, guess what? Now, if you add up all their gameplay clips, it may only been a minute or a minute and a half. But they were gameplay clips from broadcast cam or whatever new camera it was. And I thought the camera angle was really impressive. I told Brian that as well. I thought it looked cool. They showed us gameplay clips and they talked about it and the developers. And yeah, they had a guy from Wired magazine reading off a teleprompter, and it was very EA kind of post-COVID world. All that shit. There's lots to complain about too. But I just want to give credit where credit is due, because we're always like, do better. We always have problems with everything, and I just think they did a lot right. I enjoyed, I enjoyed the presentation, and I just hope that it survives the beta. I hope it survives the feedback that they're gonna get, and maybe, like, Jose, you give me hope, man. I don't go watch those videos because I probably assume wrongly in a lot of situations. I apologize for labeling people where it's incorrect.
That's something that, like, we as PES, traditionally PES fans, we see the FIFA player as some 12-year-old that just wants to score 100 goals a match, but that's not a rule. It's just our assumption. And ultimately, when you talk to people,
that's
they're like,
football audience now.
Yeah, I know, right? It's just the assumption we make just by default. We really haven't even tried to find out if that's even true. We just make it because that's the way we feel about the game. And we never really take the time to find out what the people that are playing that game, that prefer that game over PES, what do they feel about it? Is this something they're happy with? Because most people tell you FIFA has been the same fucking game for 4 years.
So we need better dialogue.
But they play it every fucking year anyway, because so does everyone else. Like, and there's all this. So it's a really weird one with
we need
FIFA.
an influencer. We need to get one on this podcast. Pick his brain.
Also is
why
weird?
Do you like these things?
Professional footballers, they fucking love FIFA.
Yeah.
Like especially if they're like younger. Like I follow Chelsea, so their online thing is always like Hudson-Odoi, Tammy Abraham, all these young guys. And whenever they're playing a game, like it's FIFA. Whenever they're like, EA will come there, they'll do player ratings reveals where they they try to guess their rating, and they put together all these. They're cheesy videos, but they're cool because everyone likes to see athletes behind the scenes and things like that. But just that they've created this like event, you know what I mean? Like, they've created this market for themselves, and they pulled it off tech wise, and it's so just out of control that like, countries are trying to impose laws against it for loot boxes and things like that. But it's just,
I think Belgium already does it, right?
Yeah,
They can't sell it in Belgium.
I think so. It's just they did a lot right, maybe with some bad intentions. Maybe they didn't see it like getting to this kind of level, but it's like I said, EA, they say all the right things. They show you, they show you some just really cool tech. There always seems to be on like the cutting edge of technology. Like Trix kind of said, they wow us with like their first generation on new consoles. Like everything's usually pretty good. But it's just the game just morphs. There's so many patches. I think there's like 21 patches this year or something like that. Like,
wow.
Yeah.
And they're significant patches. Like credit due to EA for being very transparent. Konami is horrible at being transparent with their gameplay tweaks, right?
EA's pitch notes are amazing.
Yeah, like if Konami would do that, they would put a lot of YouTubers out of business with like their data pack reviews and stuff like that. Like they're very just, and maybe it's a cultural thing in the gaming companies and how things work, but they're just completely opposite from the PR standpoint and how they shape the game or shape the impression of the game. And there's always, negativity surrounding PES in general, right? eFootball. And Konami does a lot to deserve that negativity around it by how they market the game. FIFA always will, they always come out the gate strong. They always, will kind of just wow you with their newest and greatest thing. So this year, hypermotion, right? That's what the rest of the game, so much is going to change because of this one improvement. And they build momentum, they suck you in, and then they deliver, and you're like, year after year, like at some point, fool me once, fool me twice, all that stuff. And it's, I don't know, I expect the worst out of Konami. I'm always a little pessimistic when it comes to EA, just given their past history and how they have, like, they gave us a little bite of the apple and then they quickly just
turned it into an orange.
Well, let me ask. I'm going to ask Chris. I'm going to ask Chris something because
it's a good one.
What I took away from FIFA 22, it almost like they were talking to me when they talked about the ball physics. Like I look at why am I still playing PES 2021? The things that I like, obviously the individuality, the ball physics, the ability that you don't need to do skill moves to beat a player one-on-one. You could just draw a player and double tap R1 and sprint by somebody if you have a fast player or a skillful player. And I thought what EA did was actually very creative in the sense that they showed this ball physics and technology that looked as close to PES as they've probably ever gotten from a ball physics standpoint recently. Then they're talking about the burst that you can now do, where it's like, speaking to me as somebody who doesn't do, skill moves when I play PES, really, it's really just, close control dribbling. Look at Messi, the best dribbler in the world, never does step overs. He doesn't do rainbow flicks or any of that bullshit. He uses his body positioning. He knows when to accelerate, when to decelerate, different, when to cut and things of that nature, and balance. And that burst, like, I'm like, that's double tap R1 on PES. Like, they're talking to me in terms of that burst. So while I don't think EA will ever go to the depths that Konami has in terms of, using a passer like Jorginho, if I'm playing with Italy, like, I get the ball with him and instantly I know he has the weighted pass stat. So instantly I'm looking at my strikers. I'm looking at Insigne, who's making that run behind the back line, because I can hit that weighted pass with Insigne or with Jorginho, and it's going to look beautiful. Like, I don't expect EA to ever get to that depth, but, it seems like they're talking to me in terms of the ball physics, and they're talking to me in terms of, I don't need to do skill moves now if I want to burst by somebody. So there's things that they're doing where I look at them and I go, there's a lot talking to me. Like, this is something I'm definitely interested in, because the entire package, everything else that they're offering is leaps and bounds what Konami is offering. So I don't know, Chris, do you see some things like that as well, or what are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely right. And I mean, some of the things that they've announced that there's a competitor option online now. Well, we don't know whether it's going to be across online as a whole or whether it's just going to be in a certain competitor mode. And I imagine that's what's going to be the case. But things like the auto tricks option, there's an auto, I think it's like a marking type, defending type option, or an auto strafing type option. All of these things that are in the control settings are turned off. They've announced I think it was a podcast that they did today where this came out. You hear things like that and you think it's getting a bit closer towards manual kind of controls, which a lot of people really want that kind of, I mean, if I play fully manual, then I turn Barcelona into Barnsley, and just it's a waste of time. But there's little steps like that. So they've also announced that there's a switch for offline now where attributes will mean more. So they give the option, they give the kind of the scenario.
Wait, what? Tell me about this. I didn't know this. So attributes will mean more offline.
Yeah, so there's a switch. The confusion for me is that they described it as a switch that means that Ronaldo will play like Ronaldo, whether you're on amateur or you're on, the top difficulty. So what were they doing before?
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Right. It's great.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Like, why didn't Ronaldo play like
that.
Ronaldo before? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. They must have made players so kind of watered down because of the fact that, when it comes to offline play, I don't know what their thinking is, because there was a switch in 21, which was, and I mean, Matt,
Terrible.
you know about this.
Terrible.
In fact, you know exactly what I'm going to say. The make your
Talk
players
about the competitive play or whatever.
It's for the AI to be more competitive. Was it called competitor mode, Matt?
It was competitor mode.
Yeah, I thought it
was on legendary, and then you could turn it on.
So bad.
It made it like playing against a foot player who was very good at his stepovers and whatnot. And it was terrible.
But that's what it was meant to do.
Yes.
That's the thing. Like, for me with EA, like, that's why I think EA they set off to make a game, and they make the game they set off to make, because that's exactly what that was supposed to do. It's gear you towards foot. The game just it's made for player versus player. It's not made to play against the AI, and that's the part that sucks for the people that don't want to play player versus player. But for the people that want to play player versus player, the game is pretty fucking good. But that's the thing. That's why I think there's no middle ground. Like, you either water it down for player versus player, or you water it down for player versus AI, and you're not going to do both. And they're trying. I think they do the best it can probably get, but you're just never going to do both.
Well, to be fair, they're going to push that. I think what Chris was saying that was pretty interesting. Go ahead, B.
What, Brian? That's what makes
I can't tell.
Sorry, Matt.
It's just like,
no, I was going to say that's what
he's like an animated
that's
GIF.
what makes it interesting.
Yeah, he is.
About the Master League DLC. It's interesting because Konami's talked about they're making this game geared player to player, but if they have the Master League DLC that you're paying for, as you alluded to my getting my money's worth, like, what's the AI going to look like? So go ahead. That's what
that's actually a good point. And what I was saying, branching off of what Chris was saying, was if they're willing to put in this players or this what sounds like a player ID type of skill mode, right? Or a skill toggle. And that sounds like an offline specific, but I can also see how, Jose, that also kind of helps with the foot crowd as well, because they may be experiencing such as a Ronaldo user, who's using Ronaldo in that instance, using those stepovers or iconic moves. But then the fact that they're also putting that for the offline side is encouraging to me, because for me, like I said earlier, any little slice of the pie, I want it. And so if they're spending a little bit on that slice of pie and putting some extra toppings, and they're spending time in offline mode of any kind, that tells me that somebody out there is reviewing offline in some way. Now, that's the hope that kills you, but at the same time, one can hope that is what they're doing. Like, they're not just looking at, hey, let's just add this little toggle oh, by the way, we need to check everything else as well. Like that's what I'm hoping is the perfect scenario.
I hope that's what happens. My big thing is, what is the aim with this toggle? Is the aim to prepare a person that is maybe afraid of getting into the competitive side?
Yeah.
Because that's where their moneymaker is, right? So is this to motivate and prepare a person that is considering getting into the competitive side but doesn't feel good enough yet to be ready and have the confidence to play competitively, or is this to improve the single player experience? Because that matters. That's everything. That it makes it useful or useless.
You maybe just think about that as well, because if you think about it, there are guys out there that are foot specific coaches, and in a sense, this is a way to train yourself. You know, like if I
mean a foot coach,
like a foot coach,
no, dude,
there's like a foot coach,
video game coaches.
There's actual coach, they you know what the crazy part is, like,
what
if you hear these guys out,
what,
dude, if you hear these guys out, I've sent the video to Brian of one of these guys. I don't know if you ever watch it, but if you hear these guys out, they're using real life soccer knowledge and figuring out a way to translate it into how it works in FIFA to make it effective. Agreed, but because this is a competitive game based on real
that sounds
football,
good though. That sounds like what we used to do in the
footy.
We're better PES players in general.
It usually is good, and that's the same thing in foot. That's ultimately in the high level competition. That's what happens. You're not seeing 7 fucking zeros.
Okay.
I need 7 6s.
I need an education that I think will further discussion and help me work through this. If you don't mind, take 30 seconds. So, as a guy who's been sitting out from FIFA the past couple of years, I've noticed a term come into discussion a lot, which I really truly don't. I think I know what it means, but it might not, and that's skill gap. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna put a describe a scenario in front of you, and I'll use a defensive scenario just to best illustrate it. I think, and I think it's the same as if I'm competing against the AI or a human being. If I'm defending as Liverpool and I'm controlling Van Dijk, and there's a player dribbling at me, and I've got Robertson out to my left, and maybe the ball goes out left to Robertson. I've got manual player switching on, so I am Van Dijk. Like when I control a player, I want to be him, but I want all of his stats to affect what I'm doing. If I push left, I want his stat to determine how well he goes left. If I press pass, I want his stats to determine how well he passes, taking into consideration what position he's in, if he's under pressure, if it's his weaker foot or stronger foot. That's how I want the stats to influence a player I'm controlling. But if I don't player switch to Robertson and they pass the ball out to their right wing, my left, I want Robertson. It's basically a player I'm not controlling is about positioning for me. So I want Robertson to be in the right position. I don't want him to be fucking clueless because he's Robertson and I'm Liverpool but I'm not controlling him because in the real game, it's a team sport. When I play in a position, I am I'm myself. So but I'm not taking it to the length of like 11v11 where I only control one player, right? It's just when I switch to that player, I am him, but I still want my team to react like my team. And I think it comes down to positioning because I don't want Robertson to make a tackle without my input. I want him to stay in the correct position, though, so that when I want to switch to him, I can make the big pivotal moment decision. I can make the tackle. Do people want this, or do people want Robertson to be like a dumbass standing there until I control him? And where does the term skill gap come into that situation?
Exactly
I don't understand.
So a FIFA coach is going to tell you, stay on Van Dijk, don't switch, because the time spent between switching players, depending on which way they're running, you might want him to run a different way, and you don't know what the AI is going to do in that moment. So they'll tell you just stay on him until they expect for that left back to maintain positioning and track the runner and do that kind of stuff. And so they kind of want what you just described. And that's more or less what kind of happens in a competitive player versus player environment. Where this is broken is when you're playing against the AI, then the AI is not doing either thing. That's kind of the fucked up part about this, right? But when you're playing player versus player, it's a pretty fucking good game.
So you're saying what I described is happening in player versus player, but when I turn it against the AI, now I'm playing against the AI.
This is where it came from. This is where the term AI defending came from.
We've always had AI defending.
Well, AI defending in the way the foot players describe AI defending is actually what you want as a player versus AI.
Yeah.
You want your teammates to do within what their skill set is.
Yeah.
And do it automatically in a sense, because what the term of AI defending was,
they want that to happen.
No, that's the thing. Foot players don't want it.
Yeah. What do they want the AI defensive player to do?
They want what you said.
They want the AI.
They want to stay still.
Yeah. Stay positioning. Track. Keep positioning. Play your position. Don't do the tackle for me.
Exactly.
But I'm coming from classic PES, and they didn't used to do the tackle really, unless the player ran into them. So I agree with them. Then it sounds like.
Well, what happened with is then they moved that over in FIFA. In FIFA 20, for example, that's the problem, because what they did is they took that term of AI defending from the foot guys and then applied it.
Nipples. Sorry.
Oh my goodness,
Brian! I want to hear this. I want to hear this. Hold on, I got to put my hand over.
This is why this dude. Don't get this Zoom banned, okay? Because I'm the one who has to deal with it. But what I'm saying is, this is the problem. This is what happened in FIFA 20. This is when people talked about that, like people that play offline, is when your defensive line just stopped on a dime. This is what happened because they were catering to foot players who complained about AI defending, where they could just control their striker and let the defenders, the AI defenders, do everything for them. Yeah. So in that sense, it's an imbalance. It has no skill as a result, because all you're doing is controlling your striker. And this is what has trickled down into FIFA 20. It was the defensive line. FIFA 21, what Chris talked about earlier, was the midfield. So instead of it being on the defensive line in the way it was in 20, it happened to 21. And then the central midfielders stopped doing what they're supposed to do, because that is the core at which you switch around, essentially.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it results in a game that.
So then what's the answer?
I mean, the answer is you need two separate fucking games, bro. Like you can't.
I think
there is no answer.
I think both sides
exactly
in this scenario.
Exactly. We're talking. You and I.
Look, in this scenario, both sides want the same thing. Me as an offline player, I want in Charles's his kind of scenario with Robertson and Van Dijk. I just want Robertson to maintain his position. Don't do the tackle.
Right. Yeah.
Just maintain his position. That's what foot guys want too. Foot guys don't want you to be able to hold secondary pressure, and that AI defender closes that ball carrier down and dispossesses them. They don't want that.
Yeah.
Offline people also don't want that. But the problem is when people start talking assistance levels and things like that, people start throwing allegations at foot players, and foot players throw allegations at offline players, and they say, well, us offline players say, well, you guys don't want any assistance except for when it comes to passing and shooting. Like, why don't you play on manual if you just want
this
a
is where
skill
it starts.
gap?
Yeah,
if
that's
you
your
want
skill gap.
True ratings. And don't get me wrong, it's you buy the game for $60 or however much you pay for it. Play it however you want it. But if you want to be competitive and it's about actual stick skills plus a little bit of knowledge, then take all that assistance bullshit off.
Yeah,
and it's just, you know what? If you're Verratti sitting in the middle and you got Chiesa on your right hand side and he's making a run behind the defender, you got to play the right pass with the right weight with the right player.
And from a defensive point of view, if you happen to leave your striker and just control your striker as you let the AI defend, there should be some kind of toggle that says, like in pro clubs, when you press the pause screen, it says, "Oh, hey, you've been inactive." It should be the same.
Or
same
for
way.
example, like only proximity AI players can be responsive to what you're doing. Like they have to respond to what you're doing. Something like that, man. Like
a vision
dude.
cone.
Like it has to be something like that. Yeah.
Anytime you turn the away from goal, but you still play a pass that way, that shit's not going to go to the target.
Yeah,
it's going to go to wherever it is. Like, cut out all like that, and that's one of my biggest gripes besides player movement with FIFA is PES will punish you more, not to the extent that I'd like, but FIFA does not punish you nearly as much as they should with respect to your ball physics, your body position, your ratings in terms of, all right, certain players like Verratti, he can probably play that pass with both feet.
Yeah.
But a lot of guys, most guys aren't fucking Verratti.
Right.
Most guys are just regular. The majority of FIFA players in the game through FIFA Pro are like 70s, 80s, and things like that. Like they're not 90s, like or whatever he is. But like just play true to the ratings.
Yeah.
And don't do like Matt and Brian will tell you this when we play pro clubs. The biggest opponent is our own AI.
Yeah.
It is like every goal we concede, not every goal, because sometimes they score some beautiful goals on us.
Sometimes Mendy makes a bad pass.
Yeah, he
and all
does.
That stuff.
Shout out to
He
Mendy.
doesn't pass and try to dribble through all.
But it's
no. I try to pull guys out of position to create space.
That's what he's doing.
Guys.
Dribble.
That's my concept.
Wait till he has this sprint burst. You guys haven't even seen half of what Brian's capable of.
I know, right?
Haven't seen shit.
But it always
the
gets back to the
Spaniard
AI,
is coming.
Though. It always gets back to the AI, and it's always just a brain dead moment that happens. And that's both sides want those moments gone.
Yeah.
Like just if it's straight up like football with a little bit of like flair, a little bit of whatever to it, a little bit of FIFA Street to it. All right, that sucks. Offline, we can probably tailor it with Matt sliders and things like that. But at its core, like just play a real game of like football with real physics, real ball weight, like no crazy dumb AI moments.
But that comes to the point of creating. They have the ability, just with tuning different sliders for different parameters, as Matt said. When you look at it, they could literally release 2 separate downloadable. If they wanted to do a free to play for foot,
both sides
tweak
want
them out.
good gameplay though. I think both
tweak
sides.
them.
Both
they
sides
don't need
want,
2 separate dev teams.
Right.
Both sides want, at its core, the same gameplay.
I think KG's right. I agree.
Our side wants more, maybe a slower match speed or game speed. Like the
I just want more
run a little bit
stats to matter,
right? We want
to matter and stuff like that.
Yeah, we want it like more of a simulation style.
Yeah.
But we all agree on the same things. Guys shouldn't be turning all awkwardly. They shouldn't be hitting the ball with their left foot when the situation calls for the right foot. It should be true to the sport in regards to physics and the way folks move and just the general nature of how footy is played. I think both sides want that. And then it's just to the extreme of what makes you happy as a fan. Do you like the drawn out games, or do you like a little bit of counter and a little bit of fast pace? They can I think they can do that within the same game.
Yeah.
Because they've proven to me with the inclusion of the competitor mode last year that they could drastically alter the gameplay experience by just a toggle.
Yeah.
So I think they have the ability to do that, but they need to get this central mass of just the core gameplay, cut out all the BS, get that right first.
You know what they should do? They should give you a stat boost per player when you play the way the player plays. Like when you pass the ball, when you keep possession, when you make 10 passes in a row, everybody in the team gets a 5-point stat boost until you lose possession. Like something cool to push people in that direction. To make a defender pass the ball back at a full sprint instead of trying to 360 hoof it up through pass to the striker. Like that guy gets a 2-point stat boost for the next 30 seconds because he played the ball back and played smart. Like there's so many cool things that like EA could do and then if it's a stat-based game, like I'm a strong believer that you make the fundamentals fun. Yeah. What's fun in FIFA? Why has it become the way it is? Why is it attack? Because that's the fun parts. Shooting, scoring goals. That's where make the shit that like is that I make a pass back to the keeper fun. Yeah. Maybe it's like you ever played the first Gears of War. Remember they made reloading really kind of wicked fun. There was a cool mechanic there where you had to reload and time it right, and you get a quick animation, and you'd be back in the action really fast. Like make a mechanic where like playing a simple pass, I don't know what it is, maybe it's that there's a line that like, and you get a solid feedback. Make that first touch fun as fuck. Make it fun. I just think they have all this tech that they could do something like that really easily, and it would end up in a more realistic game, and then you might appease both crowds. Because when we think about that, KG, I think you're right. I don't think that maybe we're not as far off as we think we are.
Yeah.
And that there's at least there's a basis there, like a fundamental like core that could be in both modes, and then maybe you tweak them a little bit, right?
I think that's the way to go. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of finger pointing at both sides.
I agree.
And some of it is kind of valid. I'm not gonna lie. Like both sides can be a little obnoxious at times when it comes to what their vision of the game is and things like that. But I think there's enough of a middle ground that would appease both sides. And then because EA's tech is so well developed, and because they have a lot of sliders, team sliders, and things like that, I think that in order to do it, I think they need to come up with some kind of like roster sharing online. Like I think that would help a lot of things, because most people don't have the patience to mess with sliders, just like most people don't have the patience probably to mess with option files.
Is there incentive to beat a better team with a worse team?
No.
Well, that's why I make Matt do the sliders. I just wait.
Why is that going? Like,
Matt's
wouldn't
gonna
that
do
solve the
sliders
problem
regardless.
Well, how
part
would
of
you
the problem?
incentivize that?
I hate how
That
it's
was
always
one
Real
thing.
Madrid versus Barcelona. Like,
Yeah.
wouldn't it be cool if there was more? If you beat Barcelona with Stoke, like there was more to win.
Or Chris could play like exactly like Tranmere Rovers against
Yeah,
Real Madrid
Well,
and
that's
get that
what
bonus.
Konami does. Konami does that. If you beat with their online, if you play with a shitty team against a good team, there's
Oh yeah, you get more
points.
points.
Yeah.
Okay, so that system does kind of exist.
But not in FIFA. I don't think that matters
I don't
at
think it
all.
matters
And
in
at
Sounds
least
like
not
online
in, definitely
career
not
mode
in
would be
foot.
great.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be cool though? And then even if you didn't win, maybe you have different goals. Maybe because you're playing such a good team as such a shitty team, your goals aren't to win the game. Your goal is to have at least 40% possession, and you get like
Sure.
that's what you're playing
Yeah.
for. Or
Different
your goal
incentives,
is to not get a fucking injury for the
Yeah.
next. Like you set these goals, and then it becomes fun. You're winning. You don't win the game,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
like
yeah, but you're
you
still
have
winning.
different goals. You put it in a different
Yeah.
perspective, and then
Yeah.
maybe it makes people play with more teams.
But it's always
Yeah.
like that with FIFA, because like you think about like what they introduced about like the what is it of just like things they add on to, like if they improve the stats or if they improve more info, and then it starts off that way, but then let's say they don't do the logical thing and use stats for the rest of the season, that all those all that information that it's just all there. It's like it's you just never know what to get, and it's with this technology for the first time, I feel like it could possibly serve both parties.
Way to bring it back. Way to bring it back.
So just to answer the question
Yeah,
of
loop it
skill
around.
gap and that whole like skill gap thing, right? I think that where it comes from is that a lot of players that have been playing the game for a very long time, or that are competitive people that play the game at a higher level, when it comes to competitive play, right? What they don't like is that you can play against somebody that's not at or near your ranking level, I guess, and they can get away with certain things that just don't seem to make a lot of sense, and it boils down to player stats or player like assistance in like shooting or assistance in blah blah blah, and what they're basically saying is like, hey, how can it be possible that a player that's much more skilled has to deal with this bullshit, like for example just hoofing the ball down the sideline, and your striker is just always going to beat the fucking defender because speed, right? Like so that's the big place that the skill gap comes from, is ultimately that's what it boils down to. And the fact that people used to be able to just let go their fucking controller and it was like practically impossible to fucking score, right?
That's an issue, right?
So that's kind of where a lot of that comes from. And what players want is for there to be the reason I'm winning is because I'm better at covering spaces, better at player switching, I'm better at playing the ball the way you face, I'm better at fucking deciding which player in my defensive line I'm going to control versus when I'm going to come in for a tackle, when I'm going to take a shot, am I in the right stride to take a shot? All that's what people want out of
that all makes sense, but people are not necessarily the best losers, right?
No, for sure.
They're going to complain no matter what, no matter
when you're talking,
and people are going to
legitimately, they're still going to be like, you cheap ass punk.
Yes,
bitch.
agree. But when you're talking about skill gap, that is what people are talking
that's
about.
Your determining factor.
It's not just like what most people would think, like, oh, this whole skill gap thing, all you're doing is killing the game by and why aren't you just playing on full manual? I agree with that statement. I think if ultimately what the competitive player wants is for there to be a skill gap, the best way to make it a skill gap is zero assistance, and let's find out who really is the best player, who put the most time.
Yeah, for some reason, like EA to me, their vision, I mean, it's proven to be right monetarily, but I always thought that, for instance, pro clubs should be what Foot is.
I agree.
Right? Like it's 11v11. They have the tech to pull it off. It's a team, right? Like if Matt's my other strike partner, Brian's on the wing.
Bigger barrier to entry, though. You got to have all those people to play with, right?
Right, but there's a ton. Like even now with like just pro clubs being solely on the PS5 or whatever the new Xbox is called. There's like we never, I know, we never have to wait longer than like 45 seconds to find a game. Like we start panicking if we don't find one in like a minute.
I really want to play with you guys. That's why I hope FIFA 22 will be like allow me to play.
Right. So the people are out there doing it, and there will only be like 1,000 players in the drop-ins. So there's probably a very small percentage of what's folks who are actually playing like on the PS4 pro clubs, and with no crossplay, like so that's another big, that's a kind of tying back to Konami, that's a huge plus. But the demand is out there for that. It's just like that's football. Like that's 11v11. Matt has an assignment, I have an assignment, Brian has an assignment. Like we're playing our position while playing the game. It's real football, like even if it's crazy hyper fast and like, animated all funky. But that's how it should be. So to me, like EA's vision, I thought was always off in that regard, but maybe I'm off because obviously Foot has exploded and it's exploited everything. Maybe that's what esports should have been is pro clubs and things like that. But I don't know, EA just,
I gotcha.
I
Like
like it. I think
too.
Like the competitive gamer and things like that, like Jose was saying, it's all about just skill, right? Like you get to a certain level, and I watch some of those guys play. Like I watch like those tournaments, their teams aren't that much different. So when you get to the top, like their players might be different, but it might be the difference between like a 98 Ronaldo and a 97 Ronaldo, like pack of the week versus pack of the month, or I don't know whatever all that bullshit's called, but all that stuff. So it comes down to real like
skill.
Am I better than you on the sticks? Do I know the game better than you? With a little bit of football knowledge in there too. They're actually not even doing like crazy amount of tricks. Like don't get me wrong,
hardly any.
They know how to do like some tricks, but
the
they
most
do
effective
them
ones
in the spaces where it matters. In the spaces where it matters.
That's
it's
good
actually,
then. I mean, that's good gaming.
So
it's actually entertaining
like,
to watch.
Yeah, like don't get me wrong, like it's still FIFA, so it's crazy fast, and because of the halves, the length that they play like
6 minutes.
6 minute.
Oh, really? That's short.
So it's really fast. So and with that time limit, you got to go balls to the wall. So,
but even then, score lines are still 1-0,
they're still low.
2-1.
People
like they're
complain
really
about
low,
like
dude.
Drop back tactics. And
people
all
are The complaint is like it's too slow. Like that's the complaint that the competitive player has. Dude, it's when you pay attention that you were like, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah, it's so fast. It's ADD. It's like football on.
No,
on
I mean
speed.
like yes, it's fast, but what I'm saying is like when you watch that and hear what they kind of have to say as far as complaints, the high end competitive player, what they have to say about the game, you realize like, hey, dude, that's everything I have to say about the game. What the fuck is going on here?
Yeah.
Like, we have this idea that the competitive player, dude, like because we have the idea that the competitive player is what came in to ruin the game, but in reality, we both want the same exact thing. When you're talking about the high end competitive,
we just want to experience it in different ways.
Yeah,
you might want to experience it versus someone else with like, and I understand the appeal of Foot. Like I collected baseball cards and stuff like that when I was younger, so. Part of me is like, oh, that'd be pretty cool. Like you can get your favorite player. They've got a lot of cool legends and things like that. Like, it'd be cool. Like, don't get me wrong, they all feel and control alike. So there's no like, oh, I got Zidane. Like he moves like he's silky like Zidane. He can play the ball with both feet. Like he's got all those pirouettes and all those turns. I was getting a little emotional. But
I think we'll get there.
I know, right?
Okay, calm down.
I hope so.
Okay.
I don't know.
I really hope so. I
think they can do it. I just don't think
they can do it.
I don't think it's even worth it for them to spend the time on it because they just have everybody already. They've hooked everyone in. They've pretty much told you that like generation after generation after generation, right? Like we're probably the first generation where our kids are going to grow up with video games for their whole life.
Yeah,
sure.
And
we were close. I was close.
We were
I'm 35,
close.
and my friend who was older, was showing me Mario and Skate or Die on his Nintendo.
But
and I was probably 6.
That's a good point, though.
But my kids watch like YouTube. Like they watch.
That's a whole different thing.
Playing games.
Well, what you said last time is like how it's all around, 24/7, all around. Resources all around you.
Well, they can watch somebody play a video game. That's the phenomenon that always amazed me is when it was local, it was like we wanted to play.
Yeah.
Now I don't go watch people play
I
video
don't
games.
mind
I
it.
still
No,
don't.
I
But
still
no,
don't.
I actually
it's
don't
fine.
mind
But
it.
like, I'm amazed at the amount of people who do.
Massive.
That's how I found Matt.
Massive. Let's plays are
Mhm.
massive, and it's like,
Yeah.
don't you want to play?
Yeah.
I do too, but sometimes like I want to see if other people are experiencing the game how I'm experiencing it.
Yeah.
Sure,
And
sure.
maybe
But
and
maybe
a lot of
after
times-
you've already experienced it.
right, or a lot of times
Right.
it's curiosity, like am I missing out on something, like
Sure.
good or bad? Like I'll be honest, like everyone's probably looked for certain bugs and things like that, like someone's pointed out on a forum like, oh look, this bug happens, and your mind kind of drifts towards it a little bit. But
Yeah.
but there's so like I just like I like watching people's career mode stories. I like watching like their little
Right,
cheesy
right.
highlight videos and things like that. I don't know, like I like the feeling that
That's true.
other
I did
people
always used to watch goals and stuff.
yeah,
you
like
know,
I like the feeling that
highlights.
other people are getting just as emotionally invested in a game as I am.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that might vary year to year depending on how good the
No,
game is.
I
But
think you put that
I
well.
like this. I like to see that, and I like to see them playing the game like how I like to play it. I know it's
Yeah.
selfish and it
No,
doesn't
it's a
apply
sense
to
of
everybody,
community
but
and
yeah,
experience.
I like it, and that's why I
Yeah.
liked PES because PES was it's like a you almost
That's why I
feel like
like
you're a
eating
part of the
PES.
game.
I'll tell you what, man. We should wrap it up. It's
Yeah.
going on 3 hours here. Chris has to go to work.
Chris, are you going to sleep?
He's not
Are
gonna
you
go to
going to
sleep.
work
3 hours.
tomorrow?
My alarm goes off in 3 hours. So
Oh
Are
my
you?
God,
Yeah, you
buddy.
go. Why don't you just take the off day?
Tell him to
tomorrow or
call
something?
me. Tell him to call me. They call this guy in America.
Chris, did you get vaccinated yet?
2 vaccines ready to go.
Hey,
There we go.
Oh, good shit. I
All
like
right.
it.
We'll be
That's
back
what I
in
like
the
Well,
to
office
let's-
hear.
soon.
I guess I'd love to see though, because we have a very pessimistic audience, I guess, of how many people are actually excited, like by FIFA 22. I'll give you 3. Who's excited first? I'm gonna raise my hand. Actually, who's excited? There's 6 of us here.
Yeah.
Holy shit! Every
Yeah,
single
all of
person
us.
except Jose. Who is
No,
flatlined? So never
I'm
mind.
excited
All
for
6 of
22.
us are excited. So I guess
I'm
that's
I
pretty
just-
cool.
I need to get myself a
But-
PlayStation 5.
but-
It's
But
not easy.
I also
no.
Yeah, Jose.
think I have this weird feeling that the Master League DLC is actually going to be decent. I don't know
hope so.
why.
I would love it if
I don't know.
eFootball was amazing. That's what
I have
we
no
want.
reason.
I like that optimism.
I have no reason to think it will be.
I'll go to
I
sleep with
just
that
had this
optimism
weird
in the
feeling
back
it's
of my
actually
mind.
not going to
I
be
actually-
that
I should think eFootball is going to be good.
I hope so. And it's the best thing. I'll tell you what. If we lose eFootball, if we lose Konami, and it's only FIFA,
Yeah, we're fucked.
that's not good. Like you always, competition always is better for the consumer, and
Yeah.
we better get or 2K in here if Konami goes away. We have to have at least 2 offerings.
I
Yep.
think it'll
My
be.
opinion.
I think it'll be good. I think it'll be maybe not like for me to play it every day, but I think it'll be. I think it'll be good. I think 2021 showed that they know what they're making, and I think it'll be good. I think it'll just not live up to what we wanted it to be.
Yeah, it's not going to be the messy
And
trailer
I
from
think
last year.
I think the
years ago, whatever it
disappointment
was.
comes from the messaging. I
Yeah,
think
absolutely.
the upset that people are upset not from the decision of what they're doing. It was the fact that they alluded to what was in the future, that they were working on a sim game and all this for the footy fans, and
It could
just
still be
it came
sim.
across as like
It could still be
could-
sim. Just
exactly
dumb.
that
Just,
Master League DLC could be completely different.
It could
Maybe-
but it
And
could
look,
be
maybe
sim.
Konami's and I don't mean to cut you guys off, but maybe Konami's how we talk about EA with Foot needs to be a separate game from career mode, and all they need to do is just with the sliders and the parameters make changes to separate that sim mode versus Konami's just like, listen, we're gonna do that with
Okay.
Master League. Like we're gonna separate the My Club, and all we have to do is scale the different parameters to make it more sim for the people that want to play Master League. What if that's? I mean, like we don't know just because their
don't.
PR and messaging is just so terrible.
Yeah.
But what if that happens and all of a sudden we're going, hey, eFootball's not a bad game, man.
I think
You know?
I hope you're right. I really do.
I think at its
Yeah.
core, it's going to be. I think at its core, it'll be a decent game. It's just not going to be that mind blowing game we kind of wanted it to be.
I'm going to burst your bubble here.
But-
Did you see Neymar's turns?
Yeah.
The ball was like 10 yards away from him, and the defender
where was he even
ran off the screen trying to defend him. So I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Look, the thing
Pay
is,
attention to what they're showing us. Don't
like
be
I am
surprised
going
later.
in with like some expectation. The part to me is just understanding DLCs and then understanding. I don't know what the tech is exactly. What are those files going to be? You know, what is going to be absolutely customizable? Because we think about PES, anytime anybody's mentioned PES over through the years, it's always been, but you can get option files.
Right.
And if that is even remotely limited, it's going to affect Master League.
Yeah.
So
if you want to talk about what they're showing us, then have a listen to the interview that IGN have put up, or read it rather.
It's not good.
Where,
Tika or whatever,
Yeah, where the guy's saying offline play is boring, and it's all about 1v1s. It's all about playing online is exciting.
We missed all that. That interview was huge because that was the first time I heard somebody from Konami talk about 1v1s.
And if
like
that's
that,
the focus,
it was crazy.
One of the things that made FIFA, for me, playing against the AI really frustrating was that whole focus on 1v1. So you didn't have defenders working in zonal units. You didn't have any kind of realistic tactical system when you're playing against the AI.
It's
because
funny how
of
these companies
complete
flip-flop,
focus.
isn't it? We get
Yeah,
Konami
well,
talking about 1v1s. We get a video of 11v11 from EA. Everybody moves as a unit. Like, it's so funny.
Oh, it's
But
true.
that's
Yeah.
For me, you're talking about we have to expect what we see, and for
Yes.
me, what we're
That's
seeing.
what everybody needs to do. Use your
Just
own
listen to
eyes
Charles.
in all this.
It's
Use
whatever
your
Charles
own
said.
eyes. Stop making up excuses and saying, "Well, that was on easy. That was from a different beta. That was from the mobile version." Just watch what they show us, and don't be surprised when that's what we get.
Are you saying
That's
I'm
what
not
I would
getting any textures or shadows on any?
You're going to get no
final
textures,
game? Are
no
you
shadows. You're going to get 1v1. In fact, it's only 1v1. eFootball is a keeper and a striker, and against a keeper and a striker, because that's all we've seen. I guess we did see a kickoff. I don't know, man.
I think it'll be okay.
I'm
man.
excited though. I think
boys.
this is more than we've had to talk about in so long. I'm excited, and the fact that things look different on both sides is exciting. Like, they both look like we're going to get new experiences, and I'd say for the past couple years, we've kind of got more of the same from both camps. So why not? At least it'll be interesting.
Which game do you think you're going to be playing next year?
I haven't played FIFA in 6 years. It looks like FIFA.
Yeah, I think if there's a chance for me to play a game, it's going to be FIFA. I think PES will be fine, but it's just not going to be what I want.
I got a drink to that. You said PES.
I'm out.
Yeah,
nothing left.
It's all gone.
All right,
time
boys.
to call it.
It's that time. It's that time to call it. It's that time, the Chappelle show where he's like, "Wrap it up, B. Wrap it up, B." I know you know what I'm talking about, Chris. I know you a big Chappelle show watcher. I know you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we get
Wrap it up, B.
We get all of your shows over here to the point that
Chris, I would just take a half day tomorrow, or like just take off or some
dude.
shit. I mean, you're gonna go on the
Definitely wear that hat tomorrow.
Yeah, all day.
every
You
meeting
still
I'm
working
in
from home,
tomorrow.
Chris?
I'm going to be wearing this hat in every meeting tomorrow. And
Wait,
I might
are
even
you
wear the
working
shirt.
from home? Are you remote, or you got to go in the office?
Yeah, it's working from home until 1st of September. I think it's the same for
You're
most
fine
people.
then, dude. You
You
can
can
coast
coast through.
through. That's the best thing about working from home is you can coast through that shit.
Just drop your
I
internet for
hop
the
on
day.
Zooms.
Just make some eyes. I'll tear this into bits, make some eyes out of it, stick them to the glasses.
I'll show you how to make a virtual background of where it's just your image just standing there.
I'll tell you, man, we really appreciate you staying up so late, though.
Yeah,
Like,
Yeah,
man.
man, for sure, Chris.
It's a hell
It's
of
good
a
seeing you
Listen,
too, man. It's
Chris,
been a while.
It is nice
Chris?
seeing you.
I love you, Chris. I love when we talk about our cats together. I'm a pussy fan, just like I know you love pussy. Charles, I love you, buddy. I love the emo haircut. And Matt, you're my boy. You look a lot tanner in your LinkedIn photo, and you didn't have facial hair then. But I love you, man. Jose, you packing on the pounds just like me, fatherhood, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And KG, your voice doesn't represent your face. I look at you and I'm like, you sound so different than when I see you. But that Chelsea jersey looks good on you, all right, man. So you you stay fly, I guess.
Love you too, baby.
I'm gonna hit the sack.
I'm out of here as
I'll
well.
catch up with y'all.
It was
Thank you,
great
guys.
Great
All right,
talking
guys.
FIFA and PES, man. We got to do it again sometime.
Absolutely.
All right. Take it easy, guys. I'll get
See
the
you,
recording
boys.
sorted out.
Thanks
And
for
Matt,
listening, guys.
send it over to me, and
I will,
we'll
Charles.
post it as soon as we can.
Yeah,
To-
man.
To PES, long live the king.
We are a football tribe.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And we are powerful.
We I am powerful.
Hey, boys.
Hi, guys.
Latest.
Yeah.